So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Star Wars? So let's start the series. The void between dimensions is not silent. It shrieks with the sound of collapsing physics, a choir of dying realities. Naruto Uzumaki had known pain, the rending of flesh, the severing of bonds, the gnawing emptiness of loss, but this was different. This was the universe itself tearing at the seams around him. He had been fighting. That much he remembered. A mission gone catastrophically wrong, an enemy wielding a relic that didn't obey the laws of chakra, a spiraling vortex of energy that swallowed the battlefield whole. He remembered pushing Sasuke clear, the panicked curse from Sakura, Kurama's roar vibrating through every cell in his body. Then, the fabric of his world peeled back, and he was falling through a kaleidoscope of screaming colors and impossible geometries. His chakra, vast and solar bright, was a foreign contaminant here. It pushed against the current of this other energy. A pervasive, living field that hummed with intent. It felt like being submerged in a sentient ocean that resented his very molecular structure. Kid! This place is rejecting us! Kurama's voice was strained, a guttural growl against the psychic storm. It's trying to scrub us out of existence! Naruto wrapped his chakra tighter around himself, a sphere of defiant gold. We're not dying here, Kurama! Not like this! The vortex spat him out. The transition was not gentle. It was a brutal cessation of noise followed by the sudden, violent cacophony of reality reasserting itself. He was tumbling, a golden comet trailing bits of shattered orange armor and torn Hokage cloak, through a cold, star-strewn blackness. Below him, a planet swirled, brown, gray, and green, scarred with vast canyons. And ahead, filling his vision, was the twisted, burning wreckage of a starship. It was like nothing he had ever seen. A sleek, angular hull, now ruptured and vomiting blue fire. Chunks of molten metal spiraled away from it. Naruto had no time to process its alien design. He was on a collision course. Shadow clone jutsu! He rasped, the word stolen by the vacuum. But chakra didn't need air. A dozen clones poofed into existence around him, grabbing his limbs, his cloak, forming a living chain. They pushed, pulled, and angled his body, using their as counter-thrust, bleeding his momentum in a series of explosive puffs of smoke. It was a desperate, brutal form of deceleration. He slammed into the ship's shattered hull, fingers of chakra digging into metal, carving grooves as he skidded to a stop, clinging to a shuddering plate of armor. Breath came in ragged gasps. He wasn't in space. There was thin atmosphere here. Cold, metallic tasting, but breathable. The ship groaned like a dying beast. He could see into its eviscerated interior, smashed consoles, flickering holoscreens showing symbols he couldn't read, and bodies. Humanoid, dressed in uniforms, some in robes. Frozen or burned. The energy here, it's thick. Kurama muttered internally. It's in everything. And it's watching. Naruto felt it too. That pervasive hum. It was in the metal, the air, the distant planet below. It was a field of connection, of life and death, and it prickled against his senses with a faint, hostile static. His chakra, his very life force, was an irritant to it. A section of the hull buckled with a shriek. The ship was breaking apart. He had to get to the planet. He pushed off, launching himself into the void, shaping his chakra into a rough aerodynamic shell. He fell like a meteor, the atmosphere beginning to heat the gold around him to a cherry glow. He crashed through the canopy of a petrified forest on the canyon floor. The impact carved a trench 100 meters long. Dust and shattered crystalline wood plumed into a violet-tinged sky where two small moons hung like pale, watchful eyes. For a long time, he just lay there at the end of the trench, staring up at the alien sky. The air was dry, carrying the scent of ozone and rust. The twin moons cast conflicting shadows. The pervasive hum of the foreign energy was a constant pressure on his mind, a whisper at the edge of hearing that made Kurama's presence feel like a welcome, familiar hearth fire by comparison. He sat up slowly. Every muscle ached. His Hokage cloak was in tatters. He still had his kunai pouch, miraculously intact. A scroll or two. He was alone, more profoundly alone than he had ever been. Okay, he said to the silent, watching forest. His voice was hoarse but steady. First things first. Shelter. Water. Figure out where the hell I am. He was Naruto Uzumaki, 7th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf. He had ended wars. He had faced gods. He had brought Sasuke home. This was just another mission. A really, really weird one. Over the next few days, he explored. The planet was a desolate place, a forgotten backwater. The canyons were deep, the rivers saline and bitter. He found remnants of a mining colony long abandoned, rusted machinery, hollowed-out prefab dwellings. He made one his own, clearing it of strange, six-legged vermin with a few well-placed shadow clones. He tried to sense chakra. There was none. Not a flicker. The natural energy he used for Sage Mode was different here, tainted by that pervasive hum. When he sat still, trying to gather it, it felt like trying to drink water mixed with oil. It could be done, but it required careful, strenuous separation. He managed it, once, for a few minutes. His Sage Mode senses painted the world in a new, disturbing way. The hum wasn't just sound, it was a luminous, flowing tapestry. Currents of light and shadow woven through everything, connecting the rocks, the scraggly plants, the distant skittering creatures. And where those currents touched him, they bent. They flowed around his chakra, repelled by it. He was a stone in a river, altering the stream. "We're an anomaly," Kurama observed, his voice thoughtful. "This force, as the echoes in the ship's wreckage called it, it doesn't know what to do with us. We're not part of its system." "Force," Naruto repeated. The word felt heavy. He scavenged from the wreckage that rained down over the following week. Most of it was useless melted slag. But he found a few intact items. A handheld device with a screen that showed a map of the stars, a galaxy he didn't recognize. A journal, its pages made of durable plastoid, written in a script that was nonsense to him. But some of the holos stored within, they showed figures in robes wielding blades of pure energy. Battles between vast fleets of starships. An order of peacekeepers. An empire of darkness. He was piecing together a picture of a galaxy perpetually at war, guided by this force. A war of ideology as much as territory. On the 10th day, they found him. He was at a rare freshwater seep, filling a container he'd fashioned from wreckage, when the air began to vibrate. Not with sound, but with that same force energy, tightening like a coiled spring. He dropped into a crouch, kunai in hand. Two figures descended from the canyon rim on individual repulsor lift platforms. One wore simple, rugged robes of brown and tan, his face weathered, his bearing calm but alert. A lightsaber hilt hung at his belt. The other was younger, dressed in dark, practical fabrics, a blaster pistol on her hip, her expression sharp and scanning the area. A soldier, not a monk. They landed 20 paces away. The older man's eyes found Naruto immediately. They were kind, but deeply troubled. Naruto felt a gentle, probing pressure against his mind. It wasn't malicious. It was curious, like a soft knock on a door. But the door was sealed with chakra. The pressure found no purchase, slid off, and the man's eyebrows rose in surprise. "By the force," the younger woman whispered, her hand drifting to her blaster. "Master Jax, do you feel that? It's null. A void." Master Jax held up a placating hand. "I feel it, Riva. A profound absence." He took a step forward, his hands open. "Greetings. I am Jedi Master Kalen Jax. This is Riva, of the Republic Outer Rim Scouts. We detected the hyperspace anomaly and the wreck of the Charter Star. We came to search for survivors." His eyes took in Naruto's torn, foreign clothing, the Konoha headband glinting on his forehead, the kunai, a primitive weapon in this age. "You are not from the ship." It wasn't a question. Naruto straightened up. He didn't sense immediate hostility, but the woman, Riva, was tense. The Jedi, Master Jax, was an open book of serene concern, but Naruto had learned to read beneath such surfaces. There was a wariness there, deep down. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the canyon. "I ended up here after an accident. I don't know where here is." "You are on the forgotten world of Oceraton, in the Outer Rim," Master Jax said. "You say an accident. You are not force sensitive. Yet, you are alive when the Charter Star's manifest listed no life pods escaping. And you disturb the force around you." Riva's scanner beeped. "Life signs are off the charts, Master. Energy readings I can't classify. It's not radiation. It's biological? Internal?" Naruto ignored the scanner. He focused on the Jedi. "The Force. That's the energy in everything, right? The thing that's humming." Master Jax's calm fractured for a microsecond. "You can perceive it? But you are not of it. It is most unusual." He took another step. "You are in danger here, Naruto Uzumaki. This region is unstable. Pirates, slavers, and worse. The Sith Empire's reach grows long. You must come with us. We can offer you sanctuary and understanding." It was a kind offer. Genuine in its intent. But Naruto heard the unspoken questions. "What are you? How do you exist?" He saw the way the Jedi's eyes kept flicking to his headband, to the whisker-like marks on his cheeks. He was a puzzle, and puzzles were to be solved. He also knew, with the instinct of a man who had built bridges across hatred, that accepting would mean stepping into a world he didn't understand, a war that wasn't his, as a specimen. But staying here was stagnation. He needed information. He needed to know if there was a way back. And if this galaxy was truly locked in an endless war, maybe he could help. That's what Hokage did. He made a choice. All right, Naruto said, sheathing his kunai. I'll go with you. He offered a small, weary smile. Thanks. Master Jax returned the smile, but it didn't reach his troubled eyes. Riva didn't smile at all. She just gave a sharp nod and gestured to the second repulsor lift. As Naruto stepped onto the platform, he felt the Jedi reaching out with the force again, not to probe, but to lift. The energy wrapped around the platform to carry it. Where it touched Naruto's chakra-infused body, it sputtered, frayed, and destabilized. The platform lurched violently. Sorry! Naruto said instinctively, gripping the edge. Master Jax's face paled. He focused, pouring more concentration into the task. The platform stabilized, but it was unsteady, wobbling as if carrying an unbalanced load. No apology needed, the Jedi said, but his voice was strained. The Force, it is reluctant to bear you. They rose out of the canyon. Naruto looked back at his makeshift home, at the trench of his arrival, at the planet that had been his temporary prison. He was leaving one unknown for a far larger one. As they ascended into the belly of a waiting Republic shuttle, its hull gleaming in the light of the twin moons, Riva leaned close to Master Jax, her voice a whisper the enhanced hearing of a shinobi caught easily. Master, the Council must be informed. This Naruto, he's not just an anomaly. He's a walking wound in the Force. Master Jax's reply was a somber whisper. I know, Riva. I feel it. The Force cries out in dissonance where he stands. It does not know him. It may even fear him. Naruto stared out the viewport as the shuttle shot into the starry void. A massive, crescent-shaped Republic cruiser hung in orbit, a city of light and metal. Beyond it, the infinite galaxy stretched, bound together by the luminous threads of the Force, threads that now trembled and twisted around a single, golden point of contradiction. He was Naruto Uzumaki. He did not belong here. And soon, the entire galaxy would know it. Chapter 1: The Jedi Conclave. The Jedi cruiser Resolute Path was a world of soft light, polished floors, and a pervasive, almost oppressive sense of tranquility. The air was recycled and carried the faint scent of ozone and incense. To Naruto, fresh from the desolate, open silence of Oseriton, it felt like being sealed inside a giant, humming meditation crystal. The Force was stronger here, not just a hum but a chorus, a layered symphony of focused intention, discipline, and shadowed worry. He was given a small, spare cabin. The bed was a firm slab, the desk and chair bolted to the floor. A single viewport showed the streaking stars of hyperspace, a tunnel of blue-white light that was both mesmerizing and disorienting. He'd seen many impossible things, but traveling faster than light inside a bubble of distorted space was a new one. Master Jax had been courteous but distant since their arrival. Riva had disappeared, likely to file her scout's report. A medical droid, a gleaming white and blue thing with too many manipulator arms, had scanned him thoroughly, its photoreceptors flickering with confusion. Biological readings are atypical, it chirped in a sterile voice. Cellular energy production exceeds standard human parameters by 900%. Unknown energy signature permeates all tissues, unresponsive to midichlorian assay. Recommendation: extended study in a controlled facility. No thanks, Naruto had said flatly, fixing the droid with a stare that had made it back away slightly. I'm fine. He was left alone with his thoughts, which were a stormy sea. Kurama, a constant presence in his mind, was uncharacteristically quiet, processing. This Force, it's sentient, in a way, the fox finally grumbled. Not like a person, but like an ecosystem with a will. And we're a toxic bloom in its pond. Every being on this ship is a bright little point connected to the whole. You're a dark spot. Not dark like evil, dark like a hole. An absence. I'm not an absence, Naruto muttered, looking at his hand. Chakra flickered over his knuckles, a warm, familiar gold. I'm right here. Not to them. To their senses, you might as well be a ghost. Or a rock. A chime sounded at his door. It slid open to reveal Master Jax, his hands tucked into his sleeves. Naruto Uzumaki. The Jedi Council has convened. They wish to speak with you. The Council, huh? Naruto stood, stretching. Lead the way. The walk through the cruiser was an education in silent judgment. Jedi, mostly humans and near-humans in simple robes, passed them in the corridors. Their eyes would find Master Jax, offer a respectful nod, then slide to Naruto. He saw the reactions in micro-expressions: curiosity, confusion, a slight frown, a subtle recoil. It was the recoil that stung. It wasn't fear of him, but of the empty, unsettling space he carved in their perceptual field. To beings who navigated the universe through the flowing currents of the Force, he was a sudden, jarring cataract. The council chamber was a circular room at the heart of the ship. Hollow projectors around the edges shimmered, displaying the life-size images of 4 more Jedi, 2 humans, a Togruta, and a being with green skin and large ears who sat in a floating chair. In the physical room were three others: Master Jax, who took a seat, a stern-faced human woman with gray-streaked dark hair, and a Keldor male, his face obscured by a protective mask and goggles, his breathing a steady, rhythmic hiss. Naruto stood in the center, feeling the weight of their collective gaze. The force in the room was a tangible pressure, a focused lens trying to bring him into clarity and failing. It made the air feel thick. "I am Master Lenica," the stern woman began, her voice cool and measured. "With me are Masters Pialo-kun, Shakti, Yaddle, and Mace Windu." She indicated each hologram, and the Keldor in turn. "Master Jax has informed us of your unique circumstances. You claim your name is Naruto Uzumaki, you are not from any known world in the Republic or beyond, and you possess abilities unrelated to the Force. Can you elaborate?" Naruto met her eyes. He'd faced down Kaguya. A council of monks, even in a spaceship, wasn't intimidating. But it required care. "I'm from a world called Earth," he said, using the name he knew they would recognize for a planet. "A different system. Far away. I was in a battle, an enemy used a weapon that tore a hole in reality. I fell through. Ended up on that planet. The energy we use, my people, it's called chakra. It's the physical and spiritual energy of a living being, blended together. It's inside us. We mold it, shape it." He held up a hand, and a small, stable ball of swirling blue chakra formed above his palm, humming with contained power. The effect was immediate. Master Pialo-kun leaned forward. Shakti's headtails twitched. Mace Windu's hologram remained impassive, but his eyes sharpened. Yaddle simply watched, ancient eyes unreadable. "Fascinating," Master Pialo-kun said, his voice filtered and gentle. "A wholly internalized power source. It has no connection to the living force around you?" "I can sense the living force," Naruto said, dissolving the Rasengan. "It's everywhere. But it's separate. Like oil and water. I can't use it. And it doesn't like my chakra much." "Doesn't like is an emotional term," Mace Windu stated, his voice deep and resonant. "The Force is not a being with preferences. It is a field of energy binding the galaxy. You are a discontinuity within that field. A paradox. A potentially dangerous one," Master Lenica said. "Your very presence disrupts fine Force manipulations. Master Jax reported difficulty with a simple repulsor lift. What of more delicate workings? Healing? Precognition? Battle meditation?" Naruto shrugged. "I don't know. I didn't ask to disrupt anything." "Intent is irrelevant to consequence," said the small, green Master Yaddle, her voice surprisingly strong. "A stone in a stream does not intend to divert the water, yet it does." "So what?" Naruto's tone hardened slightly. The philosophical circling was starting to grate. "You gonna toss me back into the void? Lock me up for being a paradox?" "We are not in the habit of imprisoning those who pose no threat," Shakti said softly. "But we must understand what you are. The Force flows through all life, Naruto. It is the proof of our connection to the cosmos. You are disconnected. To some, that might appear as a form of spiritual death." Her words hung in the air. Spiritual death. The ultimate Jedi fear, falling to the dark side, was a corruption of connection. But to have no connection at all? It was conceptually horrifying to them. "I'm not dead," Naruto said, a flicker of heat in his voice. "I'm connected to plenty. My friends. My village. My own spirit. Just because I'm not plugged into your giant energy network doesn't mean I'm alone." "Your chakra," Mace Windu interjected, steering the conversation back. "Can it be used to influence others? To control minds? To inflict harm?" "Yes," Naruto answered bluntly. Honesty was his only currency here. "It can be used for that. It can also be used to heal, to protect, to create. Just like any power. It depends on the person wielding it." "And you? What is your purpose with it?" Master Lenica asked. Naruto took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. The Hokage mantle felt heavy, even light years away. "To protect the people I care about. To end wars, not start them. To build a world where kids don't have to grow up on battlefields." The council was silent for a long moment. His words were Jedi-like in sentiment, but they came from a place they couldn't sense. Without the Force to verify his truthfulness, they had only his face and his tone to go on. "Your world," Master Pialo-kun said. "This Earth. It knew war? Endless cycles of it," Naruto said, sadness seeping into his voice. "Hatred passed down like a legacy. We broke that cycle. It cost almost everything. But we did it. Yet you find yourself in another war," Mace Windu observed. "The galaxy is engaged in a conflict with the Sith Empire. A conflict between the light and dark sides of the Force. A conflict you, by your nature, are fundamentally divorced from. Maybe that's a good thing, Naruto shot back. Maybe someone who isn't caught up in your sides can see a way out. Another heavy silence. Then Yaddle spoke. A guest you shall be. Learn of our ways you will. In return, allow our scholars to study your chakra you must. A danger you may not be. But a mystery you are. And mysteries in times of war, vulnerabilities can become. It was a compromise. He wasn't a prisoner, but he was under observation. He was to be a guest studied. Fine. Naruto agreed. He needed time to learn, to find his footing. This was a foothold. Master Jax was assigned as his guide and liaison. The council images flickered out, leaving the physical members. As Naruto turned to leave with Jax, Master Lenica spoke again, her voice lower. One more thing, Naruto Uzumaki. The creature that dwells within you. The great, snarling presence Master Jax sensed buried beneath your energy. What is it? Naruto froze. He'd hoped Kurama's unique signature would be obscured by the chakra dissonance. TCH, sharp for a bunch of monks. Kurama sneered internally. He's not a creature, Naruto said, his voice firm. He's my partner. His name is Kurama. It radiates a potent, chaotic energy. A fury that seems familiar to us in a dark context. It was Mace Windu, his hologram still active. The dark side is a path to many abilities some consider bestial, uncontrolled. Anger, hot and sudden, flared in Naruto's chest. Kurama's power was used for hate and destruction for decades. He was a weapon. I know what that looks like. I was that. We moved past it. Together. His power is part of mine now, and I use it to protect people. Don't you dare judge him by your Sith rulebook. The outburst was met with perfect, unsettling calm. His anger didn't ripple the force in the room. It just existed, a purely biological, psychological phenomenon. To them, it was like watching a silent scream. Emotional attachment, Master Lenica said, not unkindly. It is a path to the dark side. This bond you describe, it is a tether to powerful emotions. It is a risk. Naruto looked at each of them, the concerned Keldor, the stern human, the patient Togruta hologram, the ancient Yaddle, the imposing Mace Windu. They were trying to understand, but they were filtering everything through a dogma that had no box for him. My bonds are my strength, he said, finality in his tone. They're what saved me. They're what saved him. They're what saved my world. You can keep your risk. He left the council chamber, Master Jax following quietly. The door hissed shut behind them, sealing the Jedi and their troubled thoughts inside. In the corridor, Master Jax let out a slow breath. You do not make things easy, Naruto Uzumaki. Never have, Naruto said, his anger cooling into a stubborn resolve. So, what now? You gonna stick me with your scholars? In time, Jax said. First, I am to take you to the Galactic Republic outpost on the nearby world of Crate. It is a forward command and logistics hub. There, you can observe, and we can continue our mutual understanding, away from the heightened sensitivity of the temple ship. It was a gentle expulsion. The council wanted him at arm's length, somewhere his dissonance wouldn't interfere with their workings, but where they could still watch him. Crate, Naruto repeated. Sounds fun. War zone, Kurama corrected. They're putting the anomaly on the front lines to see what it does. Naruto knew it. The Jedi were protectors, but they were also strategists. He was an unknown variable. They were inserting him into the equation of their war to see what sum he produced. As they walked back to his cabin, they passed a large viewport. The blue streaks of hyperspace collapsed into pinpoints of stars as the resolute path reverted to real space. Before them hung a planet, its white salt flats gleaming under a red sun, pockmarked with the scars of mining and the angular, blocky shapes of a military base. In the high orbit, the sleek arrows of Republic cruisers floated beside the bulky shapes of troop transports. Further out, lurking like shadows, were darker, more jagged vessels, the Sith fleet. The war was not an abstract concept here. It was a physical, ugly reality staining a beautiful, barren world. Master Jax stood beside him, his face grim in the reflected red light. Welcome to the Outer Rim Front, Naruto Uzumaki. This is the war the Force has wrought. Naruto watched the silent ballet of warships, his jaw set. This was his new battlefield. A war of light and dark, where he was either. A war governed by destiny, where he believed in choice. He would have to fight, not with a lightsaber or the Force, but with everything he was. And his first fight, he realized, wouldn't be against Sith or droids. It would be against the galaxy's utter conviction that he did not, and could not, belong. Chapter 2, The Salt of Crate. The descent to Crate was a grim symphony of noise and tension. The Republic shuttle, a bulky LAT/I gunship, rattled and shuddered as it punched through the high atmosphere, its engines whining in protest against the planet's gravitational pull. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of ozone, lubricant, and the sharp, clean scent of plastoid armor. Naruto sat strapped into a jump seat between Master Jax and a squad of Republic clone troopers. The clones were identical in face, but subtly different in demeanor. Their white and red-marked armor was scuffed and stained with carbon scoring. They didn't speak, communicating through brief hand signals and the occasional click over their helmet comms. But their posture was alert, weapons held with a casual, lethal competence. Their eyes, visible through their T-visors, occasionally flicked to Naruto, not with the Jedi's philosophical unease, but with pure, professional assessment. What is this asset? Can it fight? Will it be a liability? One of them, his helmet marked with a blue J-guy pattern, caught Naruto's gaze and gave a single, slight nod. It wasn't friendly, but it was an acknowledgement. A soldier recognizing another being headed into the same fire. Master Jax was a statue of calm beside him, his eyes closed, his hands resting on his knees. Naruto could feel the Jedi lightly touching the Force, using it to sense the space around them, the other ships in the formation, the planet below. It was like watching a man read by Braille in a dark room. Naruto's own senses were limited to the physical, the vibrations in the deck plates, the shifting pressure in his ears, the tense breaths of the clones. Brace for turbulence. The pilot's voice crackled over the ship-wide comm. Sith interdictor field is causing gravitic shear. They don't want us landing. The gunship jerked violently, throwing everyone against their restraints. Alarms blared. Outside the viewport, the brilliant white salt flats of Crate were now streaked with the lurid red of laser fire. Green bolts from Republic turbolasers lanced up from the surface to meet descending volleys of crimson energy from the Sith ships above. The sky was a spiderweb of destruction. They're targeting the logistics base, the clone with the J-guys said, his voice modulated by his helmet. Master Jax, command reports heavy armor pushing through the eastern salt flats. They've bypassed the perimeter shields. Jax's eyes opened. Then our landing zone just became a forward position. Prepare for immediate deployment. Naruto felt a familiar cold focus settle over him. The noise, the fear, the imminent violence, it was a terrible, unwelcome homecoming. This was a war zone. His body remembered what to do before his mind had fully processed it. Chakra began to circulate, warming his muscles, sharpening his senses. The pervasive background hum of the Force receded under the immediate, physical urgency of survival. The gunship dove, engine screaming. The world outside became a blur of white and red. A near miss from a laser cannon shook the craft, raining sparks from a ceiling conduit. A clone cursed. With a final, bone-jarring thud, the gunship skidded to a landing, its rear ramp already lowering before it had fully settled. Blinding white light and a wave of oppressive, dry heat flooded in. Go, go, go! The lead clone shouted. The squad moved as one, flowing down the ramp and fanning out into a defensive perimeter on the hard-packed salt. Naruto and Jax followed. The air was filled with the thunderous crump of artillery impacts in the distance, and the high-pitched scream of TIEs and Republic fighters dueling overhead. The salt flat stretched to a crimson-hued horizon, broken only by the jagged, dark mouths of abandoned mining tunnels and the bulky, blocky shapes of prefabricated Republic bunkers, one of which was billowing black smoke. This way, Jax said, his lightsaber now in his hand, though unignited. He broke into a run towards the besieged bunker, his robes whipping around him. The clones fell into a covering formation, their DC-15 blaster rifles held ready. They were 200 meters from the bunker when the attack hit. It came from the flanks, from two of the mining tunnel mouths. Not battle droids, but soldiers in dark, angular armor, their faces obscured by snarling, demonic helmets. Sith troopers. They moved with a predatory swiftness, unleashing a torrent of red blaster bolts. Contact left! Contact right! A clone yelled. For the Republic! The clones dropped to kneeling positions, returning fire with disciplined bursts. Blue bolts streaked across the salt, kicking up puffs of red dust where they hit. A clone on the right grunted and went down, his chest plates smoking. Another dragged him behind a low salt ridge. Master Jax's green lightsaber blade snapped to life with its distinctive snap hiss. He became a blur of motion, deflecting bolts back at the attackers, closing the distance with impossible speed. A Sith trooper lunged at him with a crackling electrostaff. Jax disarmed him with a twist of his saber and sent him flying with a forced push. But there were too many. A second wave emerged from the tunnels, and among them walked a taller figure. He wore dark robes, not armor, and carried a lightsaber hilt with a cruel, curved design. His face was pale, etched with dark tattoos, and his yellow eyes burned with malice. A Sith acolyte. Jedi! The Sith's voice was a venomous rasp, amplified by the battlefield din. You bring a curiosity to the slaughter. The Master will be pleased to dissect it. He gestured, and a chunk of salt-crusted machinery, half buried nearby, tore free from the ground and hurled toward Master Jax. Jax met it with an outstretched hand, halting it in midair with a strain that showed on his face. The two Force users were locked in a telekinetic struggle, the machinery grinding between them. This left the clone squad exposed. Sith troopers advanced, using covering fire from their comrades. A blaster bolt grazed the J-Guide clone's shoulder plate, spinning him around. Another clone took a bolt to the leg, crying out as he fell. Naruto moved. He didn't think. He didn't plan. Years of instinct took over. A blur of orange and blonde, he shot past the cover of the salt ridge. Uzumaki, no! Jack shouted, his voice strained. The Sith troopers saw him coming. A barrage of red fire converged on him. Naruto didn't dodge in a straight line. He zigzagged, a Shunshin-enhanced flicker that left afterimages in the salty haze. Blaster bolts passed through empty space. In 2 heartbeats he was among them. The first trooper swung his rifle like a club. Naruto caught the barrel, wrenched it aside, and drove a chakra-enhanced palm heel into the armor over his sternum. There was a sound of cracking plastoid and a sickening crunch. The man flew backward 10 meters, skidding across the salt. Naruto spun, ducking under a wild swing from a second trooper, and swept his legs out with a low kick. Before the man hit the ground, Naruto had snatched the fallen trooper's blaster pistol, reversed his grip, and pistol-whipped a third trooper across the temple, shattering his helmet's visor. It was brutal, efficient, and utterly alien. This wasn't the elegant deflection of a Jedi or the overwhelming power of a Sith. This was close quarters, visceral shinobi combat, where every touch was meant to break, disarm, or disable. The Sith acolyte, distracted from his contest with Jax, snarled and flung a hand toward Naruto. A wave of invisible, crushing pressure, a force crush, slammed into Naruto's chest. It hit. Naruto felt the pressure, like a giant hand trying to squeeze the life from him. But it slipped. His chakra, a self-contained system, resisted the external manipulation. The force could push his body, could throw objects at him, but directly attacking his life energy was like trying to grab smoke with oily fingers. He grunted, skidding back a foot in the salt, but the crushing sensation dissipated, unable to find a firm grip on his internal essence. The acolyte's yellow eyes widened in shock. What? Naruto didn't give him time to ponder. He flung the blaster pistol away. It was an unwieldy tool for him, and formed a hand seal. Kage-bunshin no jutsu! 5 shadow clones poofed into existence around the remaining Sith troopers, adding to the chaos. They grappled, disarmed, and scattered the soldiers, buying the clones precious seconds to regroup and lay down suppressing fire. The acolyte, enraged, abandoned his telekinetic duel with Jax and lunged at Naruto, his red lightsaber carving a deadly arc. Die anomaly! Naruto had no weapon to block a lightsaber. He didn't need one. As the crimson blade descended, he sidestepped with minimal movement, the tip of the plasma passing centimeters from his face, its heat searing his whisker marks. He grabbed the acolyte's wrist with one hand, his grip like iron, and drove the fingers of his other hand into a pressure point below the Sith's ribcage. The acolyte gasped, his force-enhanced physiology stunned by the precise, chakra-driven strike. His lightsaber wavered. Naruto twisted the wrist, a sharp, practiced motion. Bone snapped. The Sith screamed, the red blade extinguishing as the hilt fell from nerveless fingers. Naruto didn't kill him. He delivered a final, stunning chop to the neck, and the acolyte crumpled to the salt, unconscious. The sudden silence on their immediate stretch of battlefield was deafening. The remaining Sith troopers, seeing their leader defeated by a man who fought like a wild animal and shrugged off force attacks, began a frantic retreat back into the tunnels. The clone squad stared, their blasters lowering slightly. The J-Guide clone slowly walked over to the unconscious acolyte, prodding him with a boot. He then looked at Naruto, his helmet tilting. Master Jax extinguished his lightsaber, his expression a mask of conflicted awe and deep disquiet. He approached slowly. The force around Naruto was in turmoil, not from dark side energy, but from violent dissonance. It was like the air after a thunderclap, charged and unstable. You! Jax began, then stopped, searching for words. Your techniques, they require no focus on the force. No balance between its aspects. Only your own will and energy. Naruto took a deep breath, letting the battle focus drain away. He looked at the wounded clone being tended to by his squad mates. Is he okay? He'll live, the J-Guide clone said, his voice now holding a note of respect. Thanks to you. That was some impressive brawling. Sir? Naruto is fine, Naruto said, wiping salt and grime from his face. The moment was shattered by a new sound, a deep, rhythmic thump. Thump. Thump that vibrated through the salt crust. In the distance, from behind a ridge of crimson crystal, a monstrous walker appeared. It was a Sith AT-AT, but more skeletal and menacing than the Republic models, its head a snarling skull-like design. Its heavy chin-mounted cannon swiveled, targeting their position. All units, this is command. Heavy armor breakthrough at Grid 7 Beta. We are losing the eastern shield generator. Fall back to the main hangar. Repeat, fall back. We have to go, Jack said, urgency returning to his voice. That walker will level this entire area. We can't outrun it on foot, the clone sergeant said, helping his wounded comrade up. Naruto looked at the advancing walker, then at the smoking bunker that was their original destination. Inside, he could see figures moving, technicians wounded, a few soldiers making a last stand at the doors. You get them to the hangar, Naruto said, his eyes hardening. Naruto, no single being can stop that, Jack said, gripping his arm. Not without. I'm not going to stop it, Naruto said, a plan, reckless and utterly Naruto, forming in his mind. I'm gonna board it. Before Jax could protest, Naruto was gone in a swirl of salt, using the body flicker to cover the open ground in a series of high-speed jumps, kicking up plumes of red dust. He was a darting, unpredictable target. The walker's cannons tracked him, firing. Huge geysers of molten salt and rock erupted around him, but he was already past the impact zones, using the explosions as cover. This is insane, even for you, kid! Kurama barked, but there was a fierce glee in his tone. Just keep my chakra steady, Naruto shot back. He reached the walker's towering leg. It was moving, a colossal piston of metal and hydraulics. He leaped, chakra flaring to enhance his jump, and landed on the armor plating. He began to scale it, using chakra to adhere to the surface, running vertically up the leg as blaster fire from the walker's top-mounted turrets tried to pick him off. He reached the underbelly of the main hull. There would be maintenance hatches, access panels. He found one, a sealed door meant for mechanics. He placed his palm against it. Rasengan! The whirling sphere of chakra didn't cut like a lightsaber. It ground. It chewed through the metal locking mechanism with a deafening shriek of tormented alloy. He kicked the compromised hatch in and dropped into the dark, oily interior of the walker. It was a cacophony of noise, the roar of engines, the clank of hydraulics, the shouts of the Sith crew. He was in a narrow maintenance corridor. 2 technicians turned, their tools becoming makeshift weapons. They were down in seconds, gently placed in a stunned heap against the wall. No killing. Not if he could avoid it. He moved forward, following the sounds of command. He burst into the main command cabin. 4 crew members, pilot, gunner, commander, comms officer, spun in their chairs, going for sidearms. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu! 4 clones appeared behind each crew member, disarming them with precise, non-lethal strikes before they could fire a shot. The real Naruto stood before the wide viewport, looking out at the Republic base they were about to obliterate. Sorry for the interruption, he said, his voice calm. We're changing course. The Sith commander, a woman with cybernetic implants on her face, spat at him. The Dark Lord will flay your soul. Yeah, heard that before, Naruto muttered. He looked at the controls. They were complex, covered in unfamiliar runes. He couldn't pilot this, but he could disable it. He focused chakra into his fingers, forming a series of quick, precise hand seals. A sealing formula wasn't just for demons or objects. A basic Fuinjutsu, chakra disruption could short-circuit sensitive electronics. He slammed his palm onto the main console. Blue chakra lines spiderwebbed out from his hand, sinking into the machinery. There was a shower of sparks. Consoles flickered and died. The deep thrum of the engine stuttered, then fell silent. The walker ground to a shuddering halt, its forward momentum carrying it into a slow, groaning tilt before it settled, stuck in the salt, a dead metal giant. Silence, save for the crackle of dying electronics. Naruto turned to the stunned, helpless crew. No, he said. We wait. Outside, Republic gunships, seeing the walker immobilized, swooped in. Troops fast roped down to secure the vessel. By the time they breached the command cabin, they found the Sith crew bound with cabling, and Naruto Uzumaki sitting cross-legged on the console, staring out at the crimson sunset now staining the salt flats, a single, untouched figure amidst the machinery of war he had just neutered. The report that reached Jedi High Command and the Republic Senate later that day was fragmentary, confused, and deeply alarming. It spoke of a Force Anomaly designation Uzumaki, who had engaged and neutralized a Sith strike team with non-force enhanced physical combat of extreme proficiency, demonstrated high resistance to direct force-based attacks, and had single-handedly boarded and disabled a Sith all-terrain armor transport using an unknown energy-based sabotage technique. In the medbay of the crate outpost, having his minor burns and salt abrasions treated, Naruto listened as Master Jax delivered the Council's updated directive. They are impressed. And profoundly concerned. The Sith will now be aware of you. They will see you as a weapon to be captured or a threat to be annihilated. The Council has ordered your immediate transfer to a secure, undisclosed location for deeper study and protection. Naruto looked at the bandages on his hands. He thought of the clone who had been shot, of the terrified faces in the bunker, of the Sith acolyte's broken wrist. He had stepped into the war, and the war had already left its mark on him. He wasn't a specimen to be protected. He was a soldier who had chosen a side, not the Jedi's, not the Sith's, but the side of the people on the ground. Tell the Council no, Naruto said quietly. Master Jax blinked. Naruto, you cannot refuse. The danger is here. Naruto interrupted, meeting the Jedi's gaze. People are dying here. I can help. I'm not going to hide in a lab while there's a fight to be had. He stood up, wincing slightly. I'll make a deal with your council. They want to study chakra? Fine. They can send their scholars here. To the front. They can study it while I'm using it to save lives. That's the only deal I'm offering. He walked out of the medbay, leaving a speechless Master Jax behind. In the corridor, he passed clones. They didn't look at him with confusion or unease anymore. They looked at him, and they nodded. A silent, soldier's recognition. He had made his first choice. He had chosen the battlefield. And in doing so, he had drawn a line in the salt, declaring himself not a Jedi, not a Sith, but Naruto Uzumaki. And the galaxy, trembling on the edge of a deeper darkness, began to take notice. Chapter 3: The Uninvited Guest. The air in the Crate Command Center tasted of recycled oxygen, stale CF, and simmering tension. Holomaps flickered, displaying the precarious Republic hold on the salt flats, a shrinking wedge of blue against an encroaching tide of crimson markers. Naruto stood at the edge of the command platform, a silent observer in a room of organized chaos. He'd been granted his deal by a council too preoccupied with the deteriorating front to argue. A Jedi researcher, a Maryland named Taliesin, had arrived 2 days prior, a slender, green-skinned man with intricate facial tattoos and an analytical, detached demeanor. He followed Naruto with a datapad and a suite of scanning devices, his curiosity clinical and relentless. The energy discharge from your Rasengan technique, Taliesin was saying now, his voice a low murmur beside Naruto, registers as a localized space-time distortion. It is not plasma, not particle beam. It is pure, coherent kinetic energy shaped by conscious will. Fascinating. And you say all your people can learn this? With training, yeah, Naruto said, his eyes on the map. A red marker flared and died near the eastern shield generator. Another probe repelled. It's about control. And not giving up. Fascinating, Taliesin repeated, making a note. The philosophical implications of a power source rooted in perseverance rather than cosmic harmony are. His words trailed off as the command center's main door hissed open. A wave of cold air, both physical and metaphysical, swept in. Conversations died. Technicians flinched. Master Jax, who had been speaking with the clone commander, turned, his hand drifting toward his lightsaber. The newcomer was not a Jedi. He was tall, draped in robes of deep burgundy and black, his posture one of regal, weary authority. His face was lined, his hair gray, but his eyes were a piercing, intelligent blue that missed nothing. He carried no visible weapon, but the force around him, it was different. Not the serene flow of the Jedi, nor the jagged fury of the Sith. It was a deep, still pool, dark with old knowledge and profound, unspoken grief. And where it met the dissonant field around Naruto, it didn't recoil or fray. It observed. It absorbed the strangeness without comment. Master Yoda sent me, the man said, his voice a gravelly baritone that commanded the room without raising its volume. I am Jedi Master Dooku. A ripple of awe and unease went through the Republic personnel. Dooku, the Jedi Lord of Sereno. A diplomat of legendary skill, a duelist without peer, a man who walked his own path, often at odds with the strictures of the Coruscant Temple. Master Jax recovered first, offering a respectful bow. Master Dooku, we were not informed of your arrival. The front is unstable. So I see, Dooku said, his gaze sweeping the room before settling, with unnerving finality, on Naruto. And I see the reason for Master Yoda's concern walks among you. He stepped forward, the crowd parting for him as if pushed by an unseen tide. He stopped before Naruto, looking down at him. Naruto Uzumaki. The paradox. Naruto met his gaze, feeling the weight of it. This was not the confused suspicion of the council, nor the clinical interest of Taliesin. This was a deep, probing assessment, as if Dooku were measuring the very shape of his soul against some internal template. I'm just a guy who got lost, Naruto said evenly. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Dooku's lips. Lost things often have the most interesting stories to tell, and the most significant impacts on the places they find themselves. He glanced at Tolson's scanning apparatus with mild distaste. You will learn nothing of true value with machines, researcher. Some mysteries are not for spectrometers. Towson stiffened but bowed his head. Of course, Master Dooku. Dooku's attention returned to Naruto. Walk with me. It was not a request. Naruto glanced at Jax, who gave a subtle, wary nod. He followed Dooku out of the command center and into one of the long, tubular corridors that connected the prefab modules of the base. The noise of war was muted here, replaced by the hum of generators and the distant, rhythmic thump of artillery. The Jedi Council fears you. Dooku began without preamble, his hands clasped behind his back as he walked. They fear what they do not understand. A being untouched by the Force is a theological impossibility to them. It challenges the foundation of their belief, that all life is one in the Force. Your existence suggests there are other foundations, other truths. I'm not trying to challenge anyone, Naruto said. I'm just trying to help where I can. A noble, if simplistic, sentiment, Dooku said, his tone not unkind. But you are a stone thrown into a pond, Uzumaki. The ripples will spread whether you wish them to or not. The Sith have already taken notice. My sources indicate a specific bounty has been issued for your capture, alive and intact, by the Sith Lord Revan's inner circle. They do not see a paradox. They see a new source of power. A key to something. Naruto felt a chill that had nothing to do with Crate's climate. A key to what? Dooku stopped, turning to face him. In the sterile corridor light, his aristocratic features were etched with a profound, melancholic wisdom. To breaking the duality itself, perhaps. The Force is a balance, a tension between light and dark. You are outside that tension. You represent a third option. A null point. To a Sith obsessed with ultimate power, a being who cannot be predicted or controlled by the Force is either the ultimate weapon or the ultimate threat. They will seek to dissect the principle of your being and replicate it, or they will seek to destroy you before you can be used against them. He resumed walking. The Jedi, in their fear, will seek to contain you. To study you until you are no longer a mystery, and thus no longer a threat to their cosmology. They will smother you with their good intentions. And you? Naruto asked, his voice tight. What do you want? Dooku was silent for a long moment. I want to understand, he said finally. I have spent a lifetime serving the light, only to watch the Republic I serve decay from within, corrupt, bloated, ineffective. I have seen the Jedi Order become so entwined with that corruption, so dogmatic in their pacifism, that they are now soldiers in a war they are ill-suited to fight. They have lost their way. And then you arrive. A being of undeniable power and compassion, yet one who exists outside the very system that defines our reality. You are proof that there are other paths. Paths not dictated by the whims of an ancient energy field. He turned a corner, leading them to an isolated observation blister, a transparent dome looking out over the endless, blood-stained salt. The twin moons were rising, casting long, conflicting shadows. I do not wish to control you, Naruto Uzumaki. I wish to learn from you. And perhaps to offer guidance. The galaxy is a maze of shadows and light. You will need a guide who is not blinded by the glare of the one, nor lost in the depths of the other. It was a seductive offer, presented with logic, respect, and a shared skepticism of the established powers. Dooku was everything the rigid council was not: worldly, pragmatic, intellectually daring. He saw Naruto not as a problem, but as a possibility. He's smooth, I'll give him that, Kurama growled internally. He's weaving a web of half-truths and appealing to your pride. He sees a tool. A very unique, very powerful tool. Naruto knew manipulation when he heard it. He'd been a Jinchuriki. His life had been a parade of people wanting to use him. But Dooku's manipulation was layered with truths that resonated. The Jedi were afraid. The Republic was flawed. He was alone. You talk about paths, Naruto said, leaning against the transparasteel, watching a Republic patrol speeder skim across the salt. But it sounds like you've already decided the Jedi path is a dead end. I have, Dooku admitted, his voice dropping. I have seen the future in the Force. A future of fire and darkness, where the Republic falls and the Jedi are exterminated. The Council closes its eyes to it. They trust in the light to see them through. I trust in action. In making difficult choices to avert a greater catastrophe. He moved to stand beside Naruto, his reflection ghostly in the dome. You have power, Naruto. Power that does not bow to destiny. You could be a fulcrum. A point upon which the fate of this galaxy could turn. Not as a Jedi. Not as a Sith. But as something new. Something free. The words hung in the cold air. They were the words of a man offering a crown, wrapped in the guise of liberation. Naruto thought of Pain, of Madara, of all the visionaries who had sought to reshape the world through control, convinced their suffering granted them the right. I've met people like you before, Naruto said softly, not looking at him. People who saw a broken world and decided the only way to fix it was to break it completely and rebuild it in their own image. They caused a lot of pain. Dooku's expression didn't change, but a flicker of something, irritation, disappointment, passed through his eyes. And you believe the Jedi way of endless, reactive war is preferable? To watch billions suffer while debating philosophy? No, Naruto said, finally turning to face him. I don't. But my way isn't about picking a new master or building a new system. It's about believing in people. One person at a time. It's slower. It's messier. It doesn't make for grand speeches or clean futures. But it's real. I've seen it work. Dooku studied him for a long, silent minute. The force around the Count was utterly still, a mirror of his impenetrable composure. Idealism is the luxury of the young and the powerful, he said at last. It is a flame that warms until the winds of reality blow. And they will blow, Naruto. Harder than you can imagine. When they do, remember this conversation. And remember that my offer stands. Sereno will always be open to you. He gave a slight, formal bow. I will be on Crate for a few days, coordinating with the Republic Command. The Sith push is more than a simple raid. They are probing for something. Be wary. With that, he turned and left the observation blister, his robes whispering against the floor, leaving Naruto alone with the vast, wounded landscape and the echo of a tempting, dangerous future. The next 72 hours were a relentless grind of war. Dooku's warning proved prescient. The Sith attacks intensified, not in broad assaults, but in precise, vicious strikes aimed at specific points in the Republic line. They weren't trying to overrun the base. They were testing its defenses, searching for a weakness. Naruto fought alongside the clones in a dozen skirmishes. He perfected his anti-Sith tactics, using clones as distractions, closing distance with the body flicker, employing non-lethal taijutsu and basic ninjutsu to disable force-sensitive officers. He became a ghost on the battlefield, a variable the Sith couldn't account for. His reputation among the clones solidified. They called him the Null or Goldie, depending on the squad. He ate with them, listened to their dry, brotherly humor, and saw the men beneath the identical faces. He learned names. The J-Guide sergeant was Hawk, the medic was Stitches, a quiet, thoughtful trooper was Echo. He also saw Dooku in action. The Count was a whirlwind of elegance and death. His lightsaber style was minimalist, efficient, every movement ending a threat. He fought with a cold, detached precision that was far more frightening than Sith rage. He saved clones, directed counterattacks, and his tactical advice to the Republic commanders was flawless. He was the perfect Jedi Lord, a hero of the front. But Naruto noticed things. Dooku always seemed to be in the right place to intercept the most dangerous Sith probes. He would disappear for hours at a time, returning just before a crisis. And once, during a lull, Naruto saw him standing at the edge of the base's sensor perimeter, facing the darkness, perfectly still, as if listening to a voice only he could hear. On the third night, the Sith found what they were looking for. The attack came not at the shields or the hangar, but at the deepest, most secure part of the base, the archaeological archive. A Republic survey team had uncovered a buried temple in the Salt months before, a precursor to the mining operations. It was filled with artifacts, crystals, tablets, devices of unknown purpose. It was deemed low priority, a curiosity. A Sith strike team, smaller than any before but comprised entirely of acolytes, and one fearsome marauder, hit the archive with surgical precision. They slaughtered the minimal guard detail and began looting specific artifacts. The alarm screamed through the base. Master Jax, Dooku, and a quick reaction force of clones, with Naruto among them, were deployed. They found a charnel house. The archive was a cavernous space carved from the planet's bedrock, lined with shelves and containment fields. Now, it was a scene of flickering emergency lights, smashed displays, and the bodies of researchers and guards. In the center, the Sith Marauder, a hulking Zabrak with horns and black tattoos, held a pulsating, obsidian obelisk covered in swirling silver script. 4 acolytes formed a perimeter around him, their red lightsabers illuminating their savage glee. The Sith holocron. Dooku breathed, his voice cold. They must not leave with it. For the Republic! Hawk yelled, and the clones poured in, blasters firing. The battle was chaos in close quarters. The acolytes were fanatics, defending their prize to the death. Blaster bolts and lightsaber blades painted the room in strobes of blue and red. Jax engaged 2 acolytes, his green blade a desperate blur. Dooku moved toward the Marauder with lethal intent. Naruto targeted an acolyte harrying a pinned-down clone squad. He used a smoke bomb scavenged from the base armory, a primitive tool that startled the Force user, and struck from the blindness, disarming him with a sharp kick to the wrist and following with a sealing tag to his forehead, a basic paralysis formula that made the man stiffen and collapse. He turned to see Dooku and the Marauder locked in a vicious duel. The Marauder was powerful, raw dark side energy fueling brutal, overwhelming strikes. Dooku was a master of Form 2, Makashi, dueling with a fencer's grace, each parry and thrust economical and precise. But the marauder's strength was driving him back toward a wall of artifact shelves. Then, Dooku did something strange. He disengaged, leaping back not to safety, but directly into the path of a stray volley of blaster fire from a clone trying to hit another acolyte. The bolt would have missed him entirely, but his movement made it a near miss that seared across his shoulder, burning his robe. He cried out, a convincing sound of pain, and his guard faltered for a split second. The marauder saw his opening and lunged, delivering a massive, two-handed overhead blow meant to cleave Dooku in two. Dooku didn't try to fully block it. He angled his blade, diverting the killing strike, directly into the containment field generator for the entire Archive's climate control and security system. The marauder's lightsaber, driven by his own immense power and Dooku's expert deflection, sheared through the generator console. There was a cascade of explosions. Lights died. The hum of containment fields vanished. And most critically, the main blast door to the Archive, which had been slowly sealing, froze halfway shut. In the ensuing darkness and confusion, lit only by lightsabers and weapon fire, the marauder, seeing his escape route now compromised, made a decision. He couldn't fight Dooku, Jax, the clones, and the anomaly all at once. He barked an order in a guttural tongue. The remaining acolytes converged, not to attack, but to cover their leader's retreat. The marauder hurled the obsidian obelisk, not toward the door, but toward the ceiling above Naruto, where ancient, unstable-looking rock formations hung. "Bring down the mountain, anomaly! Bury with us!" The marauder roared, and all four acolytes channeled a unified, devastating force blast upward. The ceiling shattered. Gigantic slabs of salt-encrusted rock began to fall, crushing shelves, artifacts, and people alike. The marauder and his surviving acolytes used the distraction and the falling debris as cover, darting toward the frozen blast door, squeezing through the gap into the corridor beyond. "The holocron!" Jack shouted, deflecting a falling boulder. The obelisk tumbled through the air amidst the raining stone. Dooku, clutching his injured shoulder, made a gesture as if to pull it to him with the force, but his efforts seemed weakened, the obelisk merely slowing in its fall. Naruto didn't think. He saw the massive stone pillar directly above a group of clones trapped under a collapsed shelving unit. He saw the holocron falling toward a crushing impact. He saw Dooku's calculated failure. He moved. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Taju Kage Bunshin!" Not 5, not 10. 50 shadow clones exploded into the collapsing chamber. A wave of orange and blonde surged. Some clones threw themselves at the falling pillar, forming a living pyramid to brace it, there absorbing the kinetic impact in puffs of smoke. Others grabbed the trapped clones and hauled them clear. A third group created a chain, the clone at the end leaping to catch the tumbling holocron before it hit the ground. The real Naruto stood in the center of the madness, chakra flaring golden around him, directing the effort with a commander's will. For a few seconds he held back the collapse through sheer, distributed force of will and body. It was enough. The last clone was pulled free. The holocron was secured. The falling rubble settled into a new, precarious equilibrium, filling half the archive but leaving a pocket of safety around the survivors. Silence returned, broken by groans of pain and the hiss of sparking wires. Dust filled the air. Naruto looked across the wreckage. Master Jax was helping a wounded clone to his feet, his face grim. The clones were staring at Naruto with something beyond respect, with awe. And Dooku stood by the frozen door, his hand on his shoulder, his blue eyes fixed on Naruto. There was no pain in his expression. Only a deep, calculating satisfaction. He had tested him. He had forced Naruto to reveal the full, staggering scope of his capabilities, the mass shadow clones, the tactical brilliance, the overwhelming protective drive. And he had engineered a situation where the Sith escaped with their lives, but without their prize, ensuring the conflict, and Naruto's value within it, would continue. Dooku gave Naruto the faintest of nods, a master acknowledging a pupil's exceptional performance. Then he turned to Jax, his voice laced with convincing strain. "Master Jax, we must secure the holocron and report this to the council. The Sith's objective is clearer now. And Uzumaki." He looked back at Naruto, the ghost of that smile returning. "Once again, you have proven to be the pivot upon which fate turns. My offer remains. Consider it carefully." As Dooku swept out to take command of the aftermath, Naruto stood amidst the dust and ruin, the cold, heavy weight of the Sith holocron in his hands. He felt the dark, whispering pulse of it against his chakra, a sensation that made Kurama growl in warning. He hadn't just been tested by the Sith tonight. He had been auditioned by Dooku. And he had passed with flying colors. The web was tightening. The uninvited guest had seen what he needed to see, and Naruto knew, with a sinking certainty, that the Count of Sereno was now the most dangerous player on the board. Chapter 4: The Price of a Third Path. The Sith holocron was a cold, whispering weight. In the sterile confines of the base's high-security vault, it sat on a neutral energy plinth, its obsidian surface drinking the light, the silver script pulsing with a slow, malevolent rhythm. To the Jedi researchers, it was a treasure trove of forbidden knowledge to be safeguarded. To Master Jax, it was a dire threat, a focal point for dark side attraction. To Naruto, it felt like a wound in the air, a pocket of concentrated wrongness that made his chakra itch and Kurama's fur bristle. It must be taken to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant for proper containment and study, Master Jax declared, his face etched with fatigue from the archive battle. He stood in the vault doorway with Dooku and the base commander, a gruff human colonel. Its presence here is a beacon. The Sith will return with greater force. Dooku, his burgundy robes now exchanged for a pristine gray tunic, his injury neatly bandaged, nodded in solemn agreement. The logic is sound. Yet the hyperlane routes to the core are heavily contested. A single ship, even a fast corvette, would be vulnerable to interdiction. The Sith have demonstrated they have precise intelligence on our movements. The colonel frowned. We could send it with the next scheduled supply convoy. 3 frigates, a cruiser escort. Harder target. A larger target, Dooku countered gently. And one that, if lost, would cripple this outpost. No. This requires subtlety. A misdirection. All eyes turned to Naruto, who was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, watching the holocron. He knew what was coming. Uzumaki is not a Jedi asset, Jack said, a protective edge in his voice. He is a guest. A civilian. He is the single most unpredictable element in this theater of war, Dooku said, his tone respectful but firm. The Sith will be looking for a Jedi transport, for a military convoy. They will not be looking for a single, unaffiliated being moving independently. And his unique qualities offer a form of security no shield generator can provide. You propose using him as a smuggler, Jack stated, disapproval dripping from the word. I propose utilizing his unique capabilities to safeguard a galaxy-threatening artifact, Dooku corrected. He has proven his resourcefulness and his commitment to protecting life. Who better to ensure this evil does not fall into Sith hands? Naruto pushed off the wall. You want me to play delivery boy for your creepy paperweight? I want you to understand the stakes, Dooku said, meeting his gaze. This holocron is not merely a historical record. It is a key. Legends say it contains the location of a vergence in the Force so powerful, it could tilt the balance of the entire war. The Sith cannot be allowed to possess it. The Jedi Council must analyze it to understand the threat. You are the only one who can move unseen because you exist outside the Force's predictive currents. The Sith cannot sense you coming. Jedi cannot track you. You are a ghost in the machine of destiny. It was a compelling argument, wrapped in flattery and necessity. It also placed the entire burden on Naruto's shoulders. A burden Dooku himself, with all his power and influence, was deftly sidestepping. And if I say no? Naruto asked. Then we resort to the convoy, Dooku said with a shrug. And we risk the lives of hundreds of clones and the possible fall of Crate. The choice, as ever, is yours. I merely present the most logical option. It was manipulation, but it was manipulation with teeth. Naruto thought of Hawk, of Stitches, of Echo and the others eating their bland rations and joking about their near misses. He thought of the terrified researchers in the archive. Dooku had painted him into a corner where saying no felt like a betrayal of the very people he was trying to help. He's good, Kurama muttered, a note of reluctant admiration in his tone. He's making his plan your noble sacrifice. A Sith would just threaten you. This is worse. I'll do it, Naruto said, the words tasting of salt and resignation. But on my terms. I pick the ship. I pick the route. No Jedi shadowing me. No trackers. I get it to Coruscant, I hand it off, and that's it. Dooku inclined his head. Agreed. A show of trust. I will provide you with false transponder codes, creds for fuel and supplies, and the coordinates for a discreet landing platform on Coruscant. The Colonel can provide you with a suitable vessel from the captured Sith inventory, something fast and unmarked. Jax looked deeply unhappy, but he saw the military logic. He placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. May the Force be with you, Naruto. Though it seems you travel your own path. 2 days later, Naruto stood in the chill hangar bay, before his chosen ship. It wasn't a captured Sith fighter. It was a Rogue-class starfighter, a sleek, angular craft with a bubble canopy and powerful sublight engines. It had been recovered mostly intact from a dogfight, its Sith markings hastily painted over with dull gray primer. It was fast, agile, and had a hyperdrive. It also had barely any life support beyond the pilot's chair and 0 amenities. It was a missile with a seat. It's called the Minix Whim, Hawk said, patting the hull. Not much to look at, but she's quick. Hyperdrive's a little twitchy, might make you queasy. We loaded the package In the secondary weapons bay. Sealed it in a sensor-dampening crate. Shouldn't tickle anyone's force sense. Naruto nodded, checking the seals on his new gear, a simple, dark gray flight suit, a utility belt with rations, a medpack, and his old, trusty kunai pouch. He'd refused the blaster. You sure about going alone, Goldie? Echo asked, his voice quiet. We could accidentally have a patrol vector near you for the first jump. The whole point is I'm not a military flight, Naruto said, offering a grin that felt more forced than usual. Don't worry. I've survived worse. He shook hands with the clones, a human gesture they were still getting used to but returned with firm grips. Master Jax gave him a final, solemn nod. Dooku was conspicuously absent, already having left Crate on his own business, leaving only his instructions and his profound sense of orchestration behind. Naruto climbed into the cockpit. It smelled of ozone, cold metal, and someone else's fear. He strapped in, his large frame a tight fit. Following the basic piloting tutorials Hawk had drilled into him, he powered up the systems. The console lit up with alien runes. He engaged the repulsors, and the Minix one lifted with a smooth whine, floating out of the hangar into Crate's perpetual red twilight. He punched the throttle. The starfighter shot forward, the salt flats becoming a blur, then the sky darkened, and he was in the star-speckled black. The transition was breathtaking and lonely. He set the navicomputer for the first jump point, a seemingly random deep space coordinate Dooku had provided, the first in a chain of 5 that would eventually, circuitously, lead to Coruscant. Punch it, he told himself, and pulled the lever. The stars stretched into lines, and the universe became the blue-white tunnel of hyperspace. The whim shuddered, its hyperdrive whining in protest. Naruto was pressed into his seat, the strange sensation of non-motion at impossible speed settling over him. This was it. He was alone, carrying a box of nightmares across a war-torn galaxy. The first leg was uneventful. 12 hours of hyperspace travel, the monotony broken only by the ship's systems checks and Kurama's occasional grumbled commentary. The second jump, to a nameless asteroid field for a simulated navigational adjustment, also passed without incident. Naruto began to relax, just a fraction. Maybe Dooku's plan was as clever as it seemed. Maybe he would slip through. The third jump was where it all went wrong. He reverted to real space in a supposedly empty sector near the Hydian Way. The navicomputer chimed, indicating a required course correction and a systems diagnostic before the final long jump to the core. As he began the diagnostic, a proximity alarm blared. On the scanner, 3 contacts resolved from behind the pale bulk of a gas giant's moon. Not Republic. Not Sith Empire. These ships were a mishmash of designs, a battered Corellian freighter, a modified Gozanti-class cruiser missing its lower pods, and a sleek, predatory Fong fighter. Pirates. Or worse. A garbled transmission crackled over the comm. Unidentified fighter, cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Transmit your access codes and cargo manifest. Naruto's heart sank. A random pirate interdiction? In deep space? The odds were astronomical. This was no accident. They were waiting. Kurama snarled. Dooku's secure route. He sold you out. The realization hit Naruto like a physical blow. Dooku hadn't just tested him on Crate. He had set up the ultimate test. Throw the anomaly into the deep end with the galaxy's most dangerous artifact and see if he could swim. Or, more likely, see what he would do when cornered. Who he would call for help. What depths of his power he would reveal to survive. The Gozanti launched a pair of boarding shuttles. The Fong fighter streaked toward him, laser cannons blazing. Anger, hot and pure, surged through Naruto. Not just at the pirates, but at Dooku's cold, calculating betrayal. He was a piece on a Daejuric board, and the Count was moving him toward a checkmate. He shoved the throttle forward, yanking the control yoke. The whim spun, evading the first barrage. He wasn't a pilot. He was a shinobi in a metal coffin. He fought the ship like he fought a tailed beast, with instinct, aggression, and a complete disregard for its structural limits. He dove toward the gas giant, using its swirling, multicolored atmosphere as cover. The Fong followed, its pilot skilled. A laser burst clipped the Whim's stabilizer fin. Alerts screamed across the console. Naruto gritted his teeth, pulling up into a tight loop that strained the inertial compensators. He came out behind the Fong for a split second and fired the ship's twin laser cannons. He missed wildly, the shots going wide. This wasn't working. He couldn't win a dogfight. The 2 boarding shuttles were closing in, tractor beams activating, grabbing for his ship. Think. The holocron. The Sith wanted it. These pirates probably had no idea what they were really after. They'd been hired as deniable interceptors. The artifact was a sensor-dampening crate, but it was still a physical object. An idea, born of desperation and shinobi cunning, formed. He cut his engines, letting the tractor beams from the nearest shuttle lock onto the whim. He played dead. As the shuttle drew closer, its docking tube extending, Naruto moved. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu! A single shadow clone appeared in the cramped cockpit beside him. You know what to do, Naruto said. The clone nodded, taking the pilot's seat. Naruto unbuckled, grabbed his gear, and clambered back into the tiny, access tunnel that led to the secondary weapons bay. He ignored the sealed crate holding the holocron. Instead, he went to the ship's small, emergency supply locker. He pulled out a survival pack, a toolkit, and crucially, a stack of dense, plastoid ration bars. They were roughly the same size and weight as the holocron crate. Working with furious speed, he used the tools and sealing tape to wrap the ration bars into a crude, boxy shape. He then scrawled a hasty, angry warning on it in Basic, using a grease pen, Sith holocron extreme danger. He imbued the fake package with a tiny, steady stream of his chakra, not enough to be a beacon, but enough to give it a faint, alien energy signature, a convincing fake for anyone scanning for anomalous energy. He left the fake on top of the real sensor dampening crate, which he pushed into a shadowy corner and covered with a tarpaulin. Then he heard the clang of magnetic seals. The boarding tube had connected. He could hear the hiss of equalizing pressure, then the grind of a cutting torch on the secondary hatch. He formed a hand seal. Henge no Jutsu. In a puff of smoke, his form shifted. He became a weakway pirate, complete with leathery skin, head tails, and tattered spacer's gear. He slumped against the wall near the fake package, clutching a spilled toolkit, playing unconscious. The hatch blew in. 4 pirates stormed the bay, 2 humans in mismatched armor, a Trandoshan hissing, and a Nautolan with twitching head tresses. They swept the room with blasters. Clear! 1 life form, weakway, unconscious. And look! Jackpot! One of the humans crowed, spotting the fake package with its dire warning. Careful, you idiot! The Nautolan barked. The client said it was dangerous. Don't touch it. Use the grav sled. They carefully loaded the fake holocron onto a floating sled, gave the unconscious weakway a cursory kick, which Naruto absorbed without flinching, and retreated back to their shuttle, sealing the tube behind them. As soon as they were gone, Naruto dropped the transformation. He went to the viewport. He saw the shuttle disengage and speed back toward the Gozanti, the pirates no doubt celebrating their easy score. The Fom fighter broke off its patrol, returning to its mothership. They had what they came for. They had no reason to stick around. He waited, heart pounding, for 5 agonizing minutes. The pirate ships powered up their drives and, with a flicker, jumped to hyperspace, disappearing into the void. He was alone again. Adrift in a damaged starfighter, with the real Sith holocron still in his hold. He dragged the real crate out, staring at it. Dooku's betrayal was complete. The Jedi Lord had not only risked his life, but had actively engineered a scenario to strip him of the artifact, likely planning to recover it from the pirates himself later, absolving the Jedi of any involvement in Naruto's fate. He was expendable. A catalyst. A cold resolve settled over him, colder than the vacuum outside. He wouldn't play Dooku's game. He wouldn't deliver this thing to the Jedi Council, who were either pawns or willfully blind to the serpent in their midst. And he sure as hell wouldn't let the Sith have it. But he couldn't just jettison it into a star. Its very existence was a threat. He needed to understand it. To neutralize it. He looked at the crate, then at the ship's damaged systems. The hyperdrive was leaking energy. Life support was at 60%. He was stranded in deep space, with no allies, and a galaxy of powerful beings who now either wanted him dead, dissected, or delivered. He activated the ship's subspace transceiver, inputting not the secure Jedi frequency, but the open, public emergency band. He sent a short, tight burst transmission on a loop, aimed not at the core, but into the chaotic, neutral space of the mid-rim. It contained no coordinates. No identification. Just a repeating sequence of a specific, complex chakra frequency pattern, a pattern only one other being in this universe might recognize, a pattern that was the equivalent of a name, etched into the fabric of a different energy altogether. It was the chakra signature of Uzumaki Naruto. A flare in the dark, a shout into a deaf void. He had no idea if it would work. If the unique distortion of his chakra could even carry through subspace. If anyone, anywhere, would sense something that wasn't the Force crying out. It was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. But believing in 1,000,000-to-1 shots was what he did. He powered down all non-essential systems, conserving energy. The cockpit lights dimmed, leaving him in near darkness, the only illumination the soft, malevolent glow of the holocron through its crate and the distant, cold light of unnamed stars. He was adrift. He had been betrayed. He had the galaxy's most wanted artifact. And he had just sent out a call for help to a family that might not even exist in this dimension. Well, kid, Kurama's voice rumbled in the silence, lacking its usual sarcasm. You've definitely picked a path. Let's see where the void takes us. Naruto leaned back in the pilot's chair, his eyes fixed on the stars, waiting. The price of his third path was now clear: absolute, utter solitude. And from that solitude, he would have to rebuild, not as a Jedi, not as a pawn, but as something the galaxy was utterly unprepared for. A free man. With nothing left to lose. Chapter 5: The Gathering Storm. Drift. It was a state of being as much as a physical condition. The Minic swim hung in the silent deep between stars, a speck of wounded metal and fading heat. Its systems whispered their decay, a failing oxygen recycler hissed a sour note, the hyperdrive coolant leak painted a faint, iridescent mist against the black. The power cells bled charge into the chill void. Time lost meaning, measured only in the slowing beeps of the diagnostic computer and the steady, corrosive pulse of the Sith holocron in its crate. Naruto sat in the pilot's chair, wrapped in a thermal blanket from the emergency kit, conserving warmth and energy. He'd entered a state of deep meditation, not to gather the tainted natural energy for sage mode, but to conserve his own chakra, to turn his focus inward. He revisited every memory of Dooku, the calculating gaze in the observation blister, the accidental deflection in the archive, the flawlessly logical plan that had led him here. The betrayal wasn't personal. That was the coldest part. It was strategic. He was a variable, and Dooku had run an experiment to see how the variable would react under extreme pressure. The results were now data points in some grand, dark design. He sees the galaxy as a machine, Kurama mused, his voice a low growl in the mental quiet. And he's trying to find a wrench that doesn't belong, to see if it can jam the gears or make them turn his way. We're the wrench. We're not a tool. Naruto thought back, the words firm in the stillness of his mind. We're a person. Tell that to the machine. The holocron pulsed again, a little stronger. It was reacting to the prolonged, close presence of his chakra. The dark side energy within it was curious, probing the edges of the foreign power it couldn't consume. Naruto resisted the urge to open the crate, to confront the thing directly. He didn't have the knowledge, the Force knowledge, to safely handle a Sith artifact. A shinobi's instinct told him some poisons were best left in their vial. His emergency transmission had been broadcasting on its automated loop for what the chronos said was 87 hours. No response. Just the endless, static sigh of the universe. Hope, that stubborn, indefatigable flame, began to gutter in the overwhelming dark. Maybe his chakra signature couldn't travel through subspace. Maybe there was no one in this galaxy who could even perceive it. Maybe he would die here, a frozen corpse guarding a box of evil, and Dooku's calculus would simply move on to the next variable. Then, on the edge of sensor range, something flickered. Not a ship. A distortion? A tiny ripple in the fabric of local spacetime, so minor the whim's damaged scanners almost dismissed it as cosmic background noise. But Naruto felt it. Not through the Force, but through a subtler sense, the instinct of a fighter who knows when the air pressure changes before a storm. He opened his eyes, staring at the sector of blackness where the ripple had been. Another flicker closer. Then another. Like stones skipping on a pond of reality. A ship resolved into being, not with the flash and roar of a hyperdrive exit, but with a silent, seamless emergence, as if it had been there all along and had just decided to become visible. It was a small vessel, utterly unlike any Republic or Sith design he'd seen. Its hull was organic in shape, flowing and asymmetrical, composed of a dark, non-reflective material that seemed to drink the starlight. No running lights, no visible engine ports. It was a shadow given form. It moved toward him, impossibly fast and utterly silent. No hails. No scans. It simply closed the distance until it filled his viewport, dwarfing the whim. A section of its seamless hull irised open, revealing a dimly lit hangar bay. A tractor beam, tinged with a soft purple light, reached out and enveloped the crippled starfighter, drawing it gently inside. The whim settled on the deck with a soft thud. The iris closed, sealing them in. The air in the hangar was cool, odorless, and carried a faint, crystalline hum that was entirely new. Not the Force. Something else. Something orderly. The cockpit canopy of the whim hissed open of its own accord. Naruto stood, chakra simmering just beneath his skin, ready for anything. He grabbed the real holocron crate, he wouldn't leave it, and jumped down to the deck. The hangar was empty save for his ship. The walls were smooth, curved, and glowed with a soft, internal bioluminescence. A doorway dilated open at the far end. A figure stood there. It was humanoid, tall and slender, clad in elegant, minimalist robes of gray and silver. Its skin was pale, almost luminous, and its hair was a shock of pure white, cut sharply. Its eyes were the most striking feature, large, pupilless, and a brilliant, knowing gold. They held no malice, no curiosity, no warmth. Only a profound, alien calm. Naruto Uzumaki, the being said. Its voice was androgynous, melodic, and seemed to come from everywhere at once. Your signal was distinctive. A pattern of energy outside all known parameters. A mathematical anomaly in the cosmic equation. Who are you? Naruto asked, his grip tightening on the crate. Where are we? I am known as the Coordinator. This vessel is my domain. You are in a fold of space we maintain for observation. The Coordinator tilted its head, a bird-like motion. You are not of the Force. This is irrefutable data. You are a system of energy that operates on endogenous principles, introducing chaos into a deterministic model. You are fascinating. Great. I'm fascinating. Did you bring me here to talk or to help? The concepts are not mutually exclusive, the Coordinator said, gliding forward. Its feet didn't seem to touch the floor. Your vessel was non-functional. Your probability of survival in the void was 3.2%. Your broadcast indicated a desire for aid. Aid has been provided. In return, data will be exchanged. What kind of data? Data on your energy system. Chakra. Data on your origin point, a dimensional coordinate we have not previously mapped. Data on the artifact you carry, which resonates with the corruptive aspect of the Force, yet is shielded from our standard scans by your presence. A most intriguing set of variables. Naruto's mind raced. These weren't Jedi. They weren't Sith. They were something else entirely, observers, scientists of a cosmic scale. They saw him as a specimen, but their detachment felt different from Dooku's cold calculus. Dooku wanted to use him. The Coordinator seemed to want only to understand him. I'll tell you about chakra, Naruto said, negotiating from instinct. I'll tell you about my home. But the artifact, it's dangerous. I need to understand it first. To neutralize it. Can you help with that? The Coordinator's golden eyes seemed to brighten. A conditional exchange. Acceptable. The artifact is a focal point for what you call the dark side, a recursive loop of entropy and will. To understand it is to map its algorithm. To neutralize it requires either its destruction, which would release a significant entropy surge, or its rewriting. Come. The Coordinator turned and floated through the doorway. Naruto followed into the heart of the ship. The interior was breathtaking and unnerving. There were no corridors as such, just flowing, organic spaces that shifted and reconfigured as they moved. Holoscreens displaying streams of impossibly complex mathematical formulae floated in the air. Other beings, similar to the Coordinator but with subtle variations, moved through the spaces, ignoring them entirely. The air hummed with a quiet, immense intelligence. They arrived in a spherical chamber. In the center, on a pedestal of the same living material, rested the fake holocron package, the one the pirates had taken. Naruto stared. You intercepted it? The pirates' vector was predictable. Their vessel was retrieved 4.7 standard hours ago. The decoy was clever. A primitive but effective manipulation of expectation. The Coordinator gestured, and the fake package disintegrated into its component ration bars and tape. The true artifact, please. Hesitantly, Naruto placed the sensor-dampening crate on the pedestal. The Coordinator made no physical movement, but the crate unfastened itself, the lid sliding away to reveal the obsidian obelisk. In this space, its effect was immediate and vile. The soft, crystalline hum of the ship warped, gaining a discordant, grinding edge. Shadows in the room deepened, pooling around the holocron as if drawn to it. The silver script blazed with angry light. A Sith holocron, the Coordinator stated, its voice unchanged. A cognitive prison for a departed will, imbued with a personality matrix designed to propagate a specific philosophical corruption. It is a virus for sentient minds attuned to the Force. A holographic projection flickered above the holocron. A hooded figure, featureless save for burning red eyes, coalesced. Who dares? The projection boomed, a voice of crushed gravel and hatred. You are not Jedi. Your presence is wrong. Give yourself to the darkness. Let me show you true power. The projection's will was a physical pressure, a psychic shout aimed at domination. Naruto felt it push against his mind, but it found no purchase, slithering off his chakra-sealed consciousness like water off glass. The Coordinator simply observed, unblinking. Your resistance is confirmed, the Coordinator noted. The Force-based compulsion has a null effect. The artifact's primary weapon is useless against you. Fascinating. What are you? The holocron spirit shrieked, turning its rage on the Coordinator. We are the ones who balance the equation, the Coordinator replied calmly. You are in excess. A miscalculation. The Coordinator raised a hand. From the walls, floor, and ceiling of the chamber, filaments of pure white light extended, connecting to the holocron. They didn't touch its physical form. They pierced the space around it, the energy field it projected. The holocron spirit screamed, a sound of pure, digitized agony. You cannot! The dark side is eternal. I am. The filaments pulsed. The screaming cut off. The angry red light in the silver script stuttered, flickered, and began to change. The crimson faded, bled of its malice, shifting through spectra of orange, yellow, and finally settling into a steady, cool silver, matching the rest of the script. The oppressive darkness in the room lifted. The discordant hum smoothed back into the ship's normal tone. The holographic projection reappeared, but the figure was now transparent, its hood thrown back to reveal the face of an elderly, tired-looking human man. His eyes were clear blue, filled with a profound sadness. It is quiet, the man said, his voice whisper-soft and full of wonder. The anger, the hunger, it is gone. What have you done? We have isolated and overwritten the recursive corruption algorithm, the coordinator said. The data remains. The knowledge of Sith alchemy, history, star charts. The personality matrix driving its propagation has been reformatted. It is now a repository. A teacher without an agenda. The spirit, no longer Sith, looked at its hands, then at Naruto. You are the source of the interference. The peace. I can feel it around you. A stillness. I'm just me, Naruto said, stepping closer, his guard lowering at the being's obvious confusion and relief. I was Kidgen. A historian. A seeker of power. I fell. I built this to preserve my knowledge, but my pain, my rage, it poisoned everything. The spirit looked at the coordinator. You have given me a kindness I do not deserve. A chance to be what I was meant to be. A teacher of history, not hatred. The coordinator nodded. The artifact is neutralized. Its danger is now its potential. The data exchange is complete on this variable. For the next several hours, Naruto held up his end of the bargain. In a quiet chamber, he explained chakra as best he could, the energy coils, hand seals, the blending of physical and spiritual energy. He demonstrated a simple transformation, a small raisin gan. The coordinator and several of its kind watched, their golden eyes recording every nuance, every fluctuation in the energy he emitted. He spoke of his world, of the elemental nations, of the tailed beasts, of the war that had finally ended. They listened without judgment, absorbing it all as a new set of axioms for their cosmic models. When he finished, the coordinator was silent for a long moment. Your existence proves a multiversal framework of staggering complexity. Your chakra is a localized biological quantum field with properties of both particle and wave, consciousness and matter. It is a closed system, which is why it repels the open, connective field of the Force. You are not an absence. You are a different type of presence. A self-contained universe. It turned its gaze to him. The one you call Dooku. His probability lines are concerning. He seeks to manipulate the conflict between light and dark toward a catastrophic convergence. Your introduction has altered his calculations. He will seek to reacquire you. The artifact, in its neutral state, is also a variable he did not anticipate. What should I do? Naruto asked, the question leaving him feeling young and lost. You will do what your algorithm dictates, the coordinator said, as if it were obvious. You protect. You connect. You defy deterministic paths. Our analysis suggests your continued interaction with the primary force-based factions will increase systemic entropy. This may lead to collapse, or to a new, stable state. The equation is unsolvable with current data. Therefore, you must generate more data. It gestured, and a view screen appeared, showing a star chart. A planet was highlighted, a green and blue world scarred with the gray of cities and the black of recent bombardment. The Galactic Republic and the Sith Empire are contesting the neutral world of Taris. Its fate is currently balanced. It is a point of high probability flux. Introduce yourself there. Act according to your nature. We will observe. You're sending me into another war? We are presenting you with the most statistically significant dataset. Your ship has been repaired and its hyperdrive recalibrated. The neutralized holocron remains with you. Kidgen's knowledge may prove illuminating. The coordinator led him back to the hangar. The Minix Swim sat there, looking pristine. Its hull was whole, its systems glowing with healthy lights. Even the primer coat looked newer. A question, Naruto said, stopping before boarding. Why help me? Why not just study me from afar? The coordinator's golden eyes met his. We balance equations. Dooku's manipulation introduced a controlled variable, you, to create a desired outcome. By aiding you, we introduce an uncontrolled variable into his equation. True understanding of a system requires observing it under stress, with unexpected inputs. You are our unexpected input. Farewell, Naruto Uzumaki. Generate interesting data. The iris opened to the void. The tractor beam guided the whim out. As soon as he cleared the hull, the organic ship shimmered and vanished, not with a jump, but with a simple cessation of existence. Naruto sat in his repaired cockpit, the neutralized holocron in the bay behind him, its silver glow now a soft, reassuring light. He input the coordinates for Tari's. The hyperdrive hummed, smooth and powerful. He was no longer drifting. He was being propelled. Not by destiny, not by the Force, but by the cold logic of cosmic observers and the lingering machinations of a fallen Jedi Lord. He was a variable, an input, a stone hurled into the pond. But he was also Naruto Uzumaki. And stones, he had learned, could be used to build bridges, if you threw them with the right intent. As the stars stretched into lines, he made a promise to himself. Tari's wouldn't just be a dataset. It would be a choice. His choice. He would protect its people, not for a council, not for a republic, not to prove a point to Dooku or the coordinator, but because it was the right thing to do. The storm was gathering. And he would stand in the center of it, a golden point of defiant, human will in a galaxy ruled by ancient energies and cold equations. Chapter 6: The Ashes of Tari's. The reversion to real space above Tari's was a sensory assault. The planet hung in the viewport, a once lush orb now swaddled in a bruised mantle of smoke and chemical haze. Great continent-spanning cities were scabbed with the black of orbital bombardment. The orbital lanes were a choked graveyard of shattered ships, drifting hulks, and the glittering debris of 1,000 battles. Republic Venators, their hulls painted with blue markings, formed a defensive cordon around the primary spaceports, while the jagged, predatory shapes of Sith Harrower-class dreadnoughts prowled the edges, exchanging long-range turbo-laser fire that painted the darkness with silent, deadly flowers of light. Naruto's repaired starfighter, the Minix Whim, slid into this chaos like a minnow into a piranha shoal. His new transponder code, provided by the coordinator, identified him as a neutral logistics and salvage vessel, barely worth a second glance from the capital ships, but a prime target for the roving packs of pirate scavengers and desperate, deserted fighters from both sides. "Keep your approach vector low and fast," a tired voice crackled over the general emergency band. It was a Republic flight controller, their tone frayed. "Sith interdiction field is patchy over the lower city. You might make it to the Okara landing pads if you're lucky and stupid. Don't expect a welcome party." Naruto didn't need a welcome party. He needed ground under his feet and people to help. He pushed the Whim into a steep, shuddering descent, skimming the upper atmosphere until it glowed orange around the canopy. He dropped into the planet's perpetual twilight, weaving through canyon-like streets of durasteel that stretched thousands of levels into the poisoned sky. Tari's was a wound. The air that filtered into the cockpit as he broke through the smog layer was acrid, tasting of ozone, burning synthplast, and decay. The lower city, his destination, was a dim world of flickering neon advertisements for long-defunct corporations, piled trash, and the constant, damp drip of leaking pipes. The Okara landing pads were a broad, open expanse of cracked permacrete, littered with the burnt-out shells of freighters and ringed by makeshift barricades manned by a motley collection of beings, human, Twi'lek, Radian, wearing the ragged remnants of Planetary Defense Force uniforms or no uniforms at all. They watched his landing with a mixture of hope and deep suspicion, their weapons pointedly not aimed at him, but not lowered either. He powered down the ship and climbed out, the holocron sealed in a nondescript backpack. The air was thick and humid, pressing against his skin. The sounds were a distant symphony of war from the upper city levels, the crump of artillery, the staccato rattle of small arms fire, and the ever-present, bone-deep thrum of starship engines high above. A woman approached. She was human, middle-aged, her face etched with grime and exhaustion, her hair tied back in a severe bun. She wore a stained medic's tabard over battered civilian clothes, and carried a worn blaster pistol on her hip. "One pilot? No cargo?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "We were told it was a salvage run. Medicine. Food." "I'm not here with supplies," Naruto said, meeting her gaze. "I'm here to help." She snorted, a sound devoid of humor. "Help? Great. We've got Jedi helping. They're up in the financial district, having a glorious last stand. We've got Sith helping. They're culling the refugee blocks for collaborators. What's your brand of help?" "The kind that doesn't leave," Naruto said simply. She studied him for a long moment, taking in his foreign features, his whisker marks, the calm certainty in his blue eyes. "I'm Sarah. Sort of in charge of this mess. What can you do?" "I can fight. I can move fast. I can carry people. I don't get tired easily. And I'm very hard to kill." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Modest, too. Fine. We're past being picky. We've got a problem. The main aquifer pumping station for this sector is 2 levels down. Sith raiding party hit it 6 hours ago. Killed the engineers, planted demo charges. They're using it as a bargaining chip. They want us to hand over a group of Republic sympathizers who've been hiding here. If we don't, they blow it, and 50,000 people in the lower wards die of thirst in a week. Our glorious Republic can't spare troops for a rescue. The Jedi say they're sensing a larger disturbance. She spat the last words with venom. Can you fight in the dark, in tight spaces, against trained soldiers who can do things with their minds? Naruto hefted his backpack. Yeah, I can do that. The route to the aquifer was a descent into the planet's bowels. Abandoned maintenance tunnels, slick with condensation and lit by flickering, failing glow panels. The air grew cooler, thicker, smelling of damp rock and rust. Sarah led him with 2 other defenders, a hulking Zabrak named Gran with a welded-together heavy repeater, and a silent Bahan scout named Kess. The Sith have maybe 10, 12 troopers, Kess whispered, her fur matted with grime. But they've got an overseer. Not a full Sith Lord, but an acolyte. A Twi'lek. Vicious. Uses the Force to pull the moisture from the air. Leaves people desiccated husks. They reached a sealed blast door. From beyond, they could hear the low thrum of massive water pumps and the echoing voices of the Sith troops. Sarah palmed the access panel, inputting an override code. This will get us into a secondary control room overlooking the main pump chamber. The charges are on the primary supports. You'll have to get past them, disarm the charges, and deal with the overseer. We'll provide a distraction from here. Naruto nodded. Just give me a signal. He didn't wait for a complex plan. Shinobi worked best with simplicity. As Sarah initiated the door cycle, Naruto formed a hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 shadow clones appeared beside him. One took his backpack with the holocron. The other 2 nodded ready. The door hissed open. The control room was empty, a window of transparent steel overlooking a vast, cathedral-like space where 4 colossal pumps churned, moving water from the deep aquifer into the city's veins. Below, Sith troopers in red-striped armor patrolled the gantries. And in the center, standing atop the main control console, was the overseer. She was a Twi'lek, her blue leku adorned with cruel-looking metal rings. She wore dark, form-fitting robes, and a double-bladed training lightsaber, not yet ignited, hung at her belt. She was speaking to a trooper, her voice a sharp, commanding lash. Sarah, Gran, and Kess opened fire from the control room window, their blasters pinging against the transparent steel and raining bolts down on the troopers below. The Sith scattered, taking cover, returning fire. The overseer snarled, her head tails twitching, and leapt from the console, landing lightly on a gantry. Now! Sarah yelled. Naruto and his clones moved. They didn't use the door. They went straight through the window, shattering it with chakra-enhanced kicks. Shards of transparent steel rained down as they fell 20 feet, landing in rolls among the Sith troopers. Chaos. The clones engaged the troopers, a whirlwind of taijutsu and disarming strikes. Naruto went straight for the charges. He saw them, 4 thermal detonators, magnetically clamped to the central support column of the largest pump. A trooper stood guard. Naruto flicked a kunai, not at the man, but at the detonator's control panel. The blade sparked against it, causing the trooper to flinch. In that moment, Naruto was on him, a palm strike to the helmet dazing him, a follow-up throw sending him over the railing into the dark water below. He landed by the charges. They were complex, wired in series. He had no knowledge of Sith demolition. But he had sealing jutsu. He placed his hands on the central charge, chakra flowing from his palms, tracing a rapid, glowing formula of containment. Fuinjutsu, chakra lock. It wouldn't disarm the explosive's physical mechanism, but it would encase their detonation signals in a shell of chakra, isolating them from any remote trigger. You! The voice was a whip crack of fury. The Twi'lek overseer landed on the gantry before him, her double-bladed lightsaber igniting with twin snarling bars of red plasma. You are the one. The anomaly. The master spoke of you. A prize worth a dozen planets. She didn't give him time to answer. She launched into a furious assault, her blade a spinning disk of death. Naruto ducked, weaved, and leapt back. He couldn't block. He could only evade. He pushed Chakra to his feet, running along the gantry railings, up the support columns, turning the vast pump chamber into a vertical battlefield. Her lightsaber sheared through metal like paper, sending showers of sparks and molten droplets raining down. You cannot hide! The Force is my eyes! She screamed, using a Force-enhanced jump to intercept him midair. Naruto met her with a substitution jutsu. A chunk of falling debris poofed into his form as he appeared behind her on a higher gantry. She sensed it, whirling, and unleashed a torrent of Force lightning from her free hand. The purple-white energy arced across the space. It hit Naruto square in the chest. He cried out, not from the dark side corruption, which again found no psychic anchor in him, but from the sheer, physical voltage. It was like being struck by a natural lightning bolt. His muscles seized. His flight suit smoked. He was thrown back against a coolant pipe, the metal denting under the impact. Kid! That's raw energy! She's cooking you from the outside! Kurama roared. Gasping, Naruto rolled aside as her lightsaber stabbed down where his head had been. He could feel burns on his skin, his heart hammering erratically from the shock. He couldn't take another direct hit like that. The overseer advanced, a cruel smile on her lips. No resistance to pure energy, I see. A flaw. The master will be delighted to know. She gathered the crackling energy in her hand again. Naruto's mind raced. He couldn't close the distance. He couldn't tank another blast. He needed a weapon. A projectile. His eyes fell on the shattered transparasteel from the control room window, littering the lower catwalks. Shards as big as his arm. As she unleashed the second bolt of lightning, Naruto didn't try to dodge fully. He turned, taking the edge of the blast on his shoulder, the pain blinding. But his hands were moving through a familiar sequence of seals, one of the very first jutsu he ever mastered. Futon Rasengan! But he didn't form it in his palm. He directed the whirling, wind-enhanced sphere of chakra downward, not at her, but at the pile of transparasteel shards. The Rasengan hit like a tornado, scooping up 100 sharp, crystalline fragments into a screaming vortex of wind and glass. The overseer's eyes widened. She tried to bring up a force barrier, a wall of telekinetic energy to block the physical projectiles. The Rasengan shard vortex hit her barrier. The wind shear and the millions of cutting edges, all spinning at hypersonic speeds driven by Naruto's chakra, did what a lightsaber could not. They ground against her telekinetic shield, not trying to overpower it, but abrading it, finding microscopic fissures in her concentration. The barrier flickered, strained, and with a sound like shattering crystal, it collapsed. A hailstorm of razor-sharp transparasteel engulfed her. She screamed, a raw, animal sound, as 1,000 cuts opened on her skin, her robes, her leku. The onslaught wasn't lethal. Naruto had pulled the Rasengan's power at the last second, but it was devastatingly painful and completely debilitating. Her lightsaber deactivated, clattering to the gantry as she fell to her knees, hands raised to her bleeding face. Naruto landed before her, panting, his shoulders screaming in pain, the smell of his own burnt flesh in his nostrils. The remaining Sith troopers, seeing their overseer defeated, began to fall back, harried by Naruto's clones and the defender's fire. He looked down at the weeping, broken Twi'lek. The hatred in her yellow eyes was gone, replaced by shock and agony. He felt no triumph. Only a cold, weary sadness. He knelt, ignoring the pain, and placed a hand on her forehead. Not an attack. A basic medical ninjutsu technique, a trickle of chakra to stem bleeding and induce a healing sleep. Her eyes fluttered closed, and she slumped unconscious. The chamber fell silent, save for the thrum of the pumps. The charges on the support column hummed softly, encased in Naruto's glowing seal, harmless. Sarah, Gran, and Kess descended from the control room, their weapons lowered, staring at the scene, the defeated Sith, the unconscious overseer, the shimmering seal on the explosives, and Naruto, standing amidst it all, injured but unbowed. The water, Sarah breathed. It's safe, Naruto said, his voice rough. He walked to the console and, with a grunt of effort, pulled the manual override lever, engaging the emergency purge cycle for the charges. The thermal detonators, now isolated, were ejected from their clamps and dropped harmlessly into a containment shaft, where they detonated with a muffled whump far below. He turned back to them, clutching his injured shoulder. We should get her to your medics. And we need to talk about those Republic sympathizers. Hiding them isn't a long-term solution. Sarah just stared at him, then slowly nodded, a new, fragile hope dawning in her exhausted eyes. Yeah, we do. Word spread through the lower city like a current through wire. Not through official channels, but through the whisper networks of the desperate. The story of the stranger who fought like a demon, who wielded wind and glass, who defeated a Sith with cunning instead of a lightsaber, and who then showed mercy. The story of the man who saved the water. That night, in the cramped, filthy medbay where his burns were being treated by a hairy Teresian doctor, Naruto opened the backpack. The neutralized holocron glowed softly. The spirit of Kibjen appeared, his translucent form looking around at the suffering. This world is in great pain, the historian said softly. I know, Naruto said. I need your knowledge, Kibjen. Not about power. About survival. About systems. How do you keep a city of millions alive when the sky is falling? The spirit nodded, his sad eyes thoughtful. I was a historian of infrastructure before I fell to darkness. Let me tell you of the great reclamation projects of Duro. Of the aquifer management on Corellia. Of how to jury-rig a power grid from scavenged parts. He began to speak, his voice a quiet stream of practical, life-saving knowledge. Naruto listened, and he began to plan. Not as a soldier, but as a Hokage. He would turn the lower city into a fortress not of war, but of community. He would use Kibjen's knowledge, his own chakra for heavy lifting and repairs, and the hardened will of people like Sarah to create a pocket of order in the chaos. But high above, in the glittering spires still held by the Republic, and in the dark command ship of the Sith fleet, sensors had recorded the anomalous energy spike in the aquifer, the distinct, non-force signature of the Rasengan. Reports filtered up. On the bridge of a Venator, a Jedi general reviewed the data, his face grim. The anomaly is on Taris, and it is interfering. In the obsidian meditation chamber of a Sith dreadnought, a lord with eyes of molten gold opened them, a smile playing on his lips. Dooku's message had been accurate. The variable was active. It was time to collect the data in person. And deep in the lower city, as Naruto helped move a damaged water filtration unit, he felt it, a familiar, cold, and calculating gaze passing over the sector, a search not with scanners, but with the Force. A search that slithered over him without recognition, but paused, puzzled, at the edges of the community he was starting to build. The storm wasn't just gathering. It had found him. And on the ashes of Taris, a new kind of battle was about to begin, a battle for the soul of a city, and a test of whether a power born of bonds could outlast the powers of light and dark. Chapter 7: The Citadel of Broken Promises. The nights on Taris were not dark. They were a sickly, luminous gray, lit by the perpetual fires in the upper wards and the reflected glow of orbital combat. In the lower city, in a repurposed moisture vaporator factory that now served as a communal refuge, a different kind of light flickered, the warm, uncertain glow of jury-rigged power cells, and the steady silver luminescence of the neutralized holocron, which Naruto had placed on a central table like an unlikely campfire. Around it sat a council of the desperate: Sarah, her medic's tabard now a badge of office; Gran, his bulk a reassuring wall; Kess, her Bahan ears twitching at every distant sound, and a dozen others, engineers, former sanitation workers, teachers, thieves. They were the nascent leadership of a people who had been abandoned by every galactic power. Naruto stood before them, his shoulder bandaged under his flight suit, the burns from the Sith lightening a dull, persistent ache. Kibjen's translucent form hovered beside the holocron, pointing at a crude schematic of the lower city's infrastructure that was projected on a stained sheet. The primary concern is filtration, the historian's spirit explained, his voice a calm counterpoint to the anxiety in the room. The bombardment has aerosolized heavy metals and carcinogens. Your existing filters are overwhelmed. However, the Republic garrison in the mid-city warehouses stockpiled high-grade filtration matrices for their atmospheric scrubbers. They are now cut off, but the data suggests the storage facility's security systems are independent of the main grid. The mid-city is a war zone, a gaunt engineer named Alvin muttered. Sith patrols, Republic snipers, and gangs of desperate survivors fighting over scraps. It's a death sentence. We need those filters, Sarah said flatly. Without them, the respiratory infections will wipe out the children and the elderly in a month. The Republic won't give them to us. The Sith would rather we choke. All eyes turned to Naruto. He had become their default solution for the impossible. He felt the weight of it, heavier than any Hokage mantle. This wasn't about protecting a village of shinobi who could fight back. This was about protecting civilians in a meat grinder. I'll go, he said. The words were automatic. I can move through contested areas better than a group. I just need the location. Kess slid a data chip across the table. Coordinates and the best infiltration routes we could map from old sewer schematics. The sewers are unstable. And not just from damage. Naruto took the chip. Unstable how? Before Kess could answer, a young Twi'lek girl, no more than 12, who had been silently listening from the doorway, spoke up. Her name was Lena, and she'd lost her family in the first orbital strike. The whispers, she said, her voice small but clear. In the deep pipes. The dark places. They say there's a monster. Something the war woke up. A chill settled over the room. Superstition was a potent currency in a dying city. Probably just feral Nexu or a malfunctioning droid, Gran grumbled, but he didn't sound convinced. The Force is strong in places of great death and suffering, Kibjen said quietly, his form flickering. And Taris has known much of both, long before this battle. Be cautious, Naruto Uzumaki. Some echoes are more than just memory. 2 hours before dawn, Naruto set out. He moved not as a soldier, but as a shinobi, a shadow along towering, broken-down walls, a flicker across the breach-oak streets. The data chip's map was a ghost in his mind, superimposed over the reality of crumbling architecture and the distant, echoing thunder of artillery duels high above. He descended into the arterial system of Taris, the maintenance and sewer tunnels. The air here was thick, warm, and carried a cloying, organic stench of decay and chemical runoff. Glow fungus painted the wet walls in patches of sickly green and blue. The silence was profound, broken only by the drip of water and the skittering of unseen vermin. It was a world beneath the world, forgotten by the war above but saturated with its psychic runoff. He felt it then. Not the Force, but the effect of the Force on a massive scale. A pressure, a psychic tinnitus, It was the accumulated fear, pain, and rage of billions of beings over centuries, steeped into the planet's bones. It made his chakra feel thick, sluggish, as if swimming against a current of phantom emotion. He followed Kessa's route for an hour, making good time. Then, the tunnel he was in opened into a vast, circular processing chamber, a forgotten septic cathedral. In the center, illuminated by a single shaft of pale light from a crack in the ceiling far above, was a mound of refuse and scrap metal. And sitting atop it, as if on a throne, was a creature. It was humanoid, but twisted. Its skin was pallid, stretched tight over a distended frame. It wore tattered rags that might have once been Jedi robes. Its eyes were milky white, blind, but its head turned unerringly toward Naruto as he entered the chamber. Its mouth was a lipless gash, and it smiled, revealing needle-like teeth. "See," it hissed, the sound echoing wetly in the chamber. "See the light. The wrong light. Not force. Not dark. Self-light. Hungry." It uncoiled itself, standing nearly 8 feet tall on unnaturally long limbs. It held no weapon, but the air around it writhed. Bits of scrap metal trembled. Pools of stagnant water shivered. "A force wraith," Kurama growled, tension in his voice. "Not a ghost. A being so saturated with the dark side, so broken by it, that it's become a predator feeding on life energy. It's blind to the physical, but it sees force signatures like bonfires. And you're a bonfire of a different color. It's fascinated." "I'm just passing through," Naruto said, keeping his voice level, his chakra circulating. "Ready?" "Passing." The wraith slurred, taking a lurching step forward. "No pass. Stay. Feed the hunger. Your light is different. Tast it, I will." It moved. Not with speed, but with a horrible, gliding certainty. It raised a clawed hand, and a wave of pure nausea slammed into Naruto, a psychic assault designed to cripple the will, to induce despair. It was a cloud of spiritual rot. It hit Naruto's mental defenses. And it stuck. This wasn't a directed mind control attempt. This was an environmental toxin, a miasma of the dark side. He felt a crushing weight of hopelessness, visions of Tari's dying, of Konoha burning, of his friends turning to dust. His chakra, usually so vibrant, dimmed under the psychic onslaught. The wraith was upon him, its claws raking toward his face. Naruto jerked back, the tips scoring lines of fire across his chest. He countered with a punch, chakra-enhanced, that connected with the thing's ribcage. It felt like hitting petrified wood. The wraith didn't flinch. It backhanded him, sending him skidding across the slick floor. "Kid! It's feeding on the negative emotions. Your fear, your pain. It's making it stronger. You have to purge it." Purge it? How? He wasn't a Jedi. He couldn't create a light side barrier. His Rasengan was a physical attack. His Taijutsu was ineffective. The wraith loomed over him, its lipless smile widening. "Yes. Fear. Pain. So rich. So complex. Not Jedi simple. Not Sith rage. Human. So human." Human. The word sparked something. This thing fed on force-born emotion. His chakra was his own energy, his will given form. His emotions were part of it, but they didn't control him. Not anymore. He remembered a lesson, a hard-learned one from the depths of his own hatred and pain. The Nine-Tails chakra had been a poison, too, until he had learned to face it, to understand it, to make it his own. He stopped fighting the despair. He let it wash over him. The fear for Tari's. The anger at Dooku. The loneliness. He acknowledged it all. And then, he pushed past it. He reached for the core of who he was, not a shinobi, not a Hokage, but Naruto Uzumaki. The boy who believed in ramen and bonds and never going back on his word. A different kind of chakra began to mix with his own. Not the fiery red of Kurama's rage, but a deep, soothing, emerald green. It was the chakra of healing, of restoration, born from his time learning medical ninjutsu from Sakura, from his desire to mend rather than break. He stood up, the green chakra wreathing his hands, pushing back the psychic gloom around him. The wraith recoiled, its milky eyes widening in confusion. "What is this? Not light. Not dark. Life? Self-life?" "It's my choice," Naruto said, his voice firm. He didn't attack. He advanced. The wraith shrieked and launched another wave of despair, followed by a telekinetic blast that tore chunks of rock from the walls. Naruto met it with a chakra-enhanced palm thrust, not to strike, but to push. The green chakra met the dark side energy. There was no explosion, no cancellation. The dark energy unraveled upon contact, dissipating like smoke in a strong wind. His chakra didn't defeat it in a contest of power, it simply refused to acknowledge its rules of corruption. It was an antidote of pure, stubborn selfhood. The wraith, enraged and frightened by the one thing it couldn't consume, lunged in a final frantic attack. Naruto sidestepped, his movements sure now, and placed both palms, glowing with green healing chakra, on the creature's chest. "Be at peace," he whispered, not with Jedi detachment, but with profound empathy. The wraith convulsed. A sound like a sighing wind escaped its lipless mouth. The madness in its milky eyes cleared, for just a second, revealing a glimpse of the tormented Jedi it had once been, a man, scared and lost. Then, its form began to dissolve, not into nothingness, but into motes of gentle light that drifted upwards toward the crack in the ceiling, toward the sky it hadn't seen in centuries. The oppressive weight in the chamber lifted. Naruto stood there, panting, the green chakra fading from his hands. He hadn't destroyed the wraith. He had released it. Given it the peace it had been denied. Humph. Kurama grunted, but there was a note of respect there. "You didn't fight its power. You undermined its reason for being. Clever, for a knucklehead." Shaken but resolute, Naruto continued his journey. He emerged from the sewers into the mid-city, a shattered landscape of once opulent towers now gutted and burning. He moved like a ghost through the ruins, avoiding patrols with his senses and clones as scouts. He reached the Republic warehouse, a fortified bunker now scarred by blaster fire. The security system was indeed offline, the door partially melted open. Inside, he found the filtration matrices, stacked in crates. He also found something else, a squad of Republic clone troopers, dead for days, their white armor blackened by an intense, localized energy discharge that had cooked them inside it. Not blaster fire. Not lightsaber. Something that left no shrapnel, only carbonized outlines on the floor. The work of a Sith using force lightning with surgical, sadistic precision. He loaded as many matrices as he could carry onto a repulsor shield he found, using a shadow clone to help. He was about to leave when a glint from a dead clone's hand caught his eye. It was a small hollow projector, still active, displaying a frozen image. It showed the clone sergeant, Hawk, from Crate, standing with his squad. They were smiling, a rare, unguarded moment. The image was labeled Ranker Squad, Pre-Deployment. Tari's Relief Op. Naruto's breath hitched. Hawk and the others, they'd been transferred here. And now they were gone, killed not in a glorious charge, but picked off in a warehouse by a Sith hunting for sport or secrets. The war wasn't just faceless armies. It was eating people he knew. He took the projector, slipping it into his pocket, a tiny, heavy weight. His return journey was a blur of grief and determination. He fought off a Sith scavenger party using hit-and-run tactics and a well-placed smoke bomb ceiling tag. He dragged the laden sled through the sewers, past the now tranquil chamber where the wraith had been. When he finally emerged into the lower city refuge near dawn, he was covered in filth, sweat, and soot, his chest wounds reopened and weeping. But he had the filters. The cheer that went up was quiet, tearful. Sarah immediately began organizing teams to install them. The children, Lena among them, looked at Naruto not with fear of a warrior, but with the awe reserved for a bringer of miracles. In the quiet that followed, in the corner where the holocron glowed, Naruto activated Hawk's projector. The image of Ranker Squad flickered in the dim light. Kid Gen's spirit appeared, looking at the frozen smiles. "They are the true cost," the historian said softly. "Not cities. Not planets. These faces. These bonds." Naruto nodded, the anger a cold stone in his gut. Not anger at the Sith who killed them, that was a given. Anger at the Jedi Council who had sent them here as a relief op into a meat grinder. Anger at Dooku, whose machinations had turned the entire galaxy into a laboratory. Anger at the Force itself, for creating a system where such sacrifice was not just common, but expected. "I'm not just saving them from thirst, Kid Gen," Naruto said, his voice low and hard. "I'm saving them from becoming more faces in a projector. This ends here." He spent the next day not resting, but planning with Sarah and the others. Using Kid Gen's knowledge, they mapped the lower city's defensible points, its hidden reservoirs, its salvageable tech. Naruto taught basic chakra exercises to a few of the more agile defenders, not to fight Sith, but to enhance their stamina for rebuilding, to sense vibrations in the tunnels for approaching danger. He was creating not an army, but a community with teeth. That evening, as the new filters hummed to life, cleaning the air of poison, a new sound echoed from the upper levels, not artillery, but the deep, resonant chime of a ship's calm, amplified to fill the city canyons. A voice, elegant, sorrowful, and utterly commanding, rolled down from the smoke. "People of Taris. This is Jedi Master Dooku of Sereno. The Galactic Republic has heard your cries. A relief fleet is en route. The Sith blockaders will be broken. Hold fast to hope. The light has not abandoned you." In the refuge, people wept with relief, hugging each other. Sarah looked at Naruto, hope and suspicion warring on her face. "Is it true?" Naruto stared up at the haze, as if he could see through it to the orchestrator of so much pain. He thought of the dead clones in the warehouse, of the Sith holocron now sanitized, of the Force wraith feeding on despair. He thought of Dooku's offer in the observation blister, and his betrayal in the void. "It's a lie," Naruto said, the words absolute. "Or the truth wrapped in a lie. He's not coming to save us. He's coming to see what his experiment has built. And to clean up his loose ends." He turned to the council, his blue eyes holding a fire that had been tempered in the sewers and forged in grief. "The Republic isn't coming. The Jedi aren't coming. We are on our own. And that's okay. Because we are enough." He raised his voice, not with rage, but with a conviction that cut through the celebratory chatter. "Listen to me. That voice from the sky? He's the reason your water was poisoned. He's the reason your families are dead. He doesn't bring hope. He brings tests. And we are done being tested." The room fell silent, all eyes on him. "We build our own citadel," Naruto declared, slamming a fist onto the table where the holocron shone. "Not of stone or metal, but of people. We save ourselves. And if Dooku or the Sith or anyone else comes down here looking for a war, they'll find one. But it won't be the war they expect. It'll be a war for our home. And we will not lose." He was no longer just a refugee, an anomaly, a variable. He was the declared enemy of a Jedi Lord, the protector of a broken city, and the spark of a rebellion not against an empire, but against the very idea that their fate belonged to anyone else. In the smog-choked sky, Dooku's personal shuttle, the Solar Sailor, began its descent toward the upper city command plaza. The Count gazed down at the ruins, a slight frown on his aristocratic face. The anomaly's energy signature was a tangled knot down in the lower wards, intertwined with thousands of others in a way that was distressingly cohesive. The variable was not just reacting. It was building. "Interesting," Dooku murmured to himself. "You are not merely resisting the system. You are attempting to create a new one. How ambitious." He activated a secure comm channel. "Lord Revan," he said, his voice smooth as polished obsidian. "The asset is consolidating on Taris. The secondary objective is also confirmed. The time for observation is over. The time for collection has begun." Below, in the citadel of broken promises, Naruto Uzumaki prepared for the storm he had summoned. The ashes of Taris would be the foundation of his stand, or his grave.